All right,
Great.
we're here. We did it. It's my pleasure to have Bob Magnuson here with me. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's say hi. So how you doing?
I'm good. It's a
Thanks for doing
pleasure to
this.
be here with you.
Yeah, I'm glad we could do this, and this is just nice for me because I know you, so it'd be nice to like. I've always wanted to like sit down and chat with you longer than like in our lesson.
Than our lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me too.
So what have you been doing? You went surfing today, you said? Or
No, I'm not a wintertime surfer
okay.
anymore.
Right.
I can't take the cold water. But I have a SUP there called stand-up paddleboard.
Oh, yeah.
And because I live in Point Loma, I've got the ocean on the west.
Right.
And the bay on the
other
east.
side. Yeah.
So I go all winter long and paddle on the bay.
Nice.
And then when the water gets above 65, 66, then I try to still surf. And it's getting harder as I get older to jump to my feet, though. But all my I got all my grandkids surfing and my son-in-laws.
Nice.
And so we have a big family outing.
That's great.
Yeah,
I've never
fun.
done the stand-up paddleboard.
It's really fun.
Yeah, it seems like it would be.
And it was a great social distancing thing.
Oh, yeah,
all
that's true.
through COVID, Cause,
Yeah, it's true. And you're outside, you're getting sun.
I did it all through that.
Yeah, that's cool. You know what's funny is not the last time I saw you, because that's not true, but I remember before I went back to get my master's, I remember seeing you when I was surfing with Ben Waneker.
Oh, yeah.
And you're out walking your dogs.
Yes.
And we were both like, hey, that's Bob.
Yeah, I would run into Ben quite often because I used to walk the cliffs really,
right, that's where we were, yeah.
really a lot, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the cliffs right there.
Where did you surf it this month?
Well, I would go, when I was surfing more, I would go to like either the stairs right there, what is that, garbage? Or I would go maybe at like what's to the right more of the stairs, it's a little.
Well, there's North Garbage.
I guess that's what it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Rock Slide.
That's it. Rock Slides is one of them.
There's a left. Yeah, that's a really good left. I've seen that get really great.
Yeah, but I would go there a lot, or when I was really surfing, I would go to like Black's a lot.
Oh, I've never gone.
That was kind of a while ago.
That's
I haven't really gone in a while. But
yeah.
And Black's gets kind of big sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, really big at all.
So I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not a big wave guy at all. I like shoulder high and warm water and big longboards.
And that's what you're saying. You were telling me about what's the spot
Scorpion
down? Yeah,
Bay.
that's it.
Oh man, it's a dream wave.
Yeah, I gotta go when I gotta go. Every time I see you, we start talking about that.
Yeah. You
and whenever I see Peter, I talk with him about surfing.
He flew down one year to join us, and he got a good swell too. He's in such good shape. He surfed like 3 times a day.
Mm.
He'd get up in the morning and surf third point overhead, on his short board. Then we'd ride second point in the middle of the day. Then in the afternoon, we'd drive down to first point with longboards.
Wow. I saw Peter one time up in like Encinitas or wherever he lives. But I was up there surfing before a gig. And I was getting out of the water. I was with my buddy Dylan Casey, and I get out, and in comes Peter, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, he surfs beacons all the time.
Okay.
He can ride his bike down. He lives in Leucadia.
Yeah.
So he can ride right down.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I need to. You know what? I haven't been surfing as much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been. I just feel like
I don't either.
Yeah.
It's just getting harder and harder.
For sure.
I'm getting too old.
Well, I wanted to talk about maybe just some things that I don't know, that I feel like maybe people don't get to ask you, especially as like a student. I feel like you're at least in lessons. You were always talking about music, and we don't really get a chance to sit down and just like hear. So I know one of my favorite things about you is like just knowing that you played with Sarah Vaughan just blows my mind because I love that lady.
Oh man.
So
yeah.
Maybe we can just, if anything comes to mind, you don't have to talk about anything specific.
It was one of the great gigs in my whole life. And I got it. I was pretty young. Of course, I was the worst guy in the trio. When I joined the band,
That's the best.
it was Jan Hammer playing piano, who later went.
Okay.
He left a few months later and went to the Mahavishnu. But Jimmy Cobb
Right. I found some videos of you playing
was
with
the
him.
drummer.
Yeah.
So, and the record that I got hooked on was Kind of Blue.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
You know, so here I am sitting next to Jimmy Cobb
Right.
with Sarah Vaughan. I'm just as nervous and scared to death as I can be. And Sarah tells me, at one point she says, you know, Bob, she called me either Mag or Bob. She says, I sing from the bass, which made me even more nervous.
Yeah, because she can sing low. Like
Oh, yeah.
That's
But
what
that's
she has
where
a
she,
huge-
that's her center of where she feels she launches her stuff from.
I see.
And she was like amazing every night, Louis. I mean, and then other nights, angelic.
Right. That's what you always say. That's your saying of her. That I
Yeah.
love, is like,
I never heard her sound any less than that, you know. There's been Carl Schroeder, who was the pianist in the last part of the time I played, got in touch with me, maybe a year ago. We did a concert in Lauren, which is outside of Amsterdam. It was a big festival. Chet Baker, a bunch of people were on it. And their television there in Holland did a really professional thing, videoing. And,
oh, okay.
and Sarah was just like on. It was one of those kind of nights.
So I'm sure it's up on the internet. Or you can probably find
Well,
it. Yeah?
we looked and looked, me and Schroeder. I never could find anything. Then Schroeder sent me in the mail. They've like a audiophile company in Europe has released the sound. We've never seen the video.
Oh.
But it's called Sarah Vaughan Live at Lauren, Laren, the Lost Recordings.
Ooh.
But it's just, I mean, it's some great Sarah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's one of the best things, definitely the best thing I did with her.
Nice.
The 3 years I stayed.
So I'm gonna have to scour the internet now.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna
You
have
can
to
find it because I've looked it up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Oh man, and she is just on. Like it's one of those angelic nights.
Dude, that's so cool. I love how you talk about how she's just like always perfect, and then sometimes just like exceptional.
Yeah. Her bad nights were exceptional.
Yeah, her bad nights were perfect.
Yeah.
And her good nights were exceptional. Yeah, that's just.
And she was lovely to us. I mean, she had the nickname of Sassy, and she could really do that, But the musicians were like family to her.
Right, okay.
She did many, I'll just tell you a couple little stories.
Okay, yeah, please.
We were working in New York at the Rainbow Grill, and we finished, and we had maybe 3 days or something. And then we were going to be at the Fairmont Hotel in Dallas. And this was, so Jimmy lived in New York, Cobb, and I think Bill Mays, no. Anyways, they were all staying in New York. So
and where were you at this point? Where did you live?
I lived back here in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Then. This
cool.
was this is the second time I worked for her.
Right, because I remember you said you had like 2 stints.
I did. I played 71 and 72.
Okay.
And so this would have been the second time. No, this would have been the first time because we didn't have Jillian. We had our son, Matthew. And Jan and I were living together. We were childhood sweethearts.
Oh, cool.
And went together in high school. Then we both married other people and got divorces.
Okay.
Started to live. So, I'm a homebody kind of a guy.
Uh-huh.
So Sass says, "Are you going to just hang in New York?" And I said, "No, I got to go home and see Janet and Matthew." And so Marshall Fisher, do you know Bud Fisher, the piano tuner?
I feel like I've heard that
It's
name.
his dad.
Oh, wild.
He and Sarah lived together, and he was just the loveliest guy. And he took care of the business and went on everything. So she said, Marshall, get Bob a ticket to San Diego. And she said, and then you get your ticket to Dallas, to the Fairmont. So that saved me like half the bread.
Right, yeah.
So I go home. By the time you get home and fly, you have a day or something. So I arrive in Dallas at the Fairmont Hotel, and Seth says, how was seeing Janet and Matthew? I said, oh, great, they're doing fine. I said, just too short. And she said, would you like them to come here? I said, I would love that. She said, Marshall, get tickets, round trip tickets, out of her pocket.
Oh wow!
She flew Janet and Matthew to Dallas,
where you guys were.
Yeah, and they had a pool, and it was summer, and every day we were out at the pool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing she did for me, stuff like that.
I see. That's just kind of how she was.
Yeah, with the musicians.
She would take. Yeah, I mean, I feel like just from having studied her so much, because she's just one of my favorites. So And remind me to tell you the story after this, so I don't forget about the record I found in Japan.
Okay.
Because I don't want to forget. I want to tell you.
All right.
But I can imagine in my head, I imagined her kind of being like that.
But
like at the same time, kind of not taking any shit from anyone too.
Right.
Like
she wouldn't. Promoters and all that.
Right, right. I can imagine. Like if she had to. She seemed like she was like such a strong. I can tell. Like you just get that vibe from
person.
Her. Yeah.
Well, she was with all. She was like 18 when she joined.
Billy, what is it? Billy X?
No, it was Billy was the singer in the band. It was Earl Hines' band.
Oh.
With Charlie Parker and I think Dizzy was in the band. And then those guys all went off with Billy X and formed that band with Art Blakey.
Okay.
So she lived with
She was in that, yeah.
She was in all this.
Yeah, so you had to have some thick skin too, I'm sure.
Oh, man, to live with those guys. Yeah. And travel around the country on the bus. And that's cool. She was a strong lady.
Yeah, I remember, I want to tell you about this record that I found. I was in New York visiting like a friend, just hanging out and going to some of the clubs and just just seeing, because you hear so much, studying the music and like, oh, this is where this happened, and I went to like I wanted to go find I think I found it, but me and my buddy Matt went and found the the famous picture, A Day in Harlem.
Oh yeah, on the porch.
Yeah. So I think I found it.
Yeah, the place.
Yeah.
Building.
Like I'm pretty sure it was it, and it seemed like it, and it was just cool to like sit there and like. Wow, like this is like they were all right here. Like,
yeah. And have you seen the film, the documentary? They made a film.
I think I have.
Yeah.
I don't remember though. I get
it's either called A Great Day in Harlem or A Day in Harlem.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe I have. I can't remember. I've seen so many like of those kinds of movies where I'm not sure.
Well, they had it. They showed it. The premiere of it was up in Los Angeles, and they had. I forget what the name of the theater was, but they invited me to come up, and they did a new picture.
Oh, cool!
On the stairs, so I have that at home.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Gilbert was in it.
Gilbert
was
cool.
There, yeah. Horace Silver and all these. One. But I think the only guys, Benny Golson is still alive. I don't know if anybody else from that photograph is still alive.
And it's not even everyone, but it's a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely is, yeah.
Man, some jazz history there.
Well, I was there, and we go in all these spots, and we hit up like it was like a little bookstore kind of thing. It was like cool. I don't even remember what it was called, but it kind of went down.
Yeah.
And it was like a
basement thing.
Yeah, there's like books everywhere, and there were some CDs, and I found this CD of Cervantes. It was like $2. And it was like pink, and it was a CD, what I mean? It's just like, which is hilarious because you're asking me if I could burn these CDs. I don't even have my CD burner anymore. But so I got this CD. I was like, all right, this can't be bad.
Yeah.
So I got it, and I'm listening to it, and it's great. But there's one track on it specifically that's just really good. It's like it's her singing "The Nearness of You," and it's just like duo piano vocals, and it's just that.
What is it? Her playing piano?
So I love this, and I'm like transcribing because whatever she's doing, like whoever's playing with her in my head, I'm like, God, who is playing with her?
Nice
like,
voicings and everything.
Yeah, like they're reading her mind because there's certain moments where it's just like, how would you do that? Because she does these key changes. And like the way it walks down chromatically, it's like these 2 5s, and then she goes up a half step. Anyways, long story short, it's her playing piano. So I'm sitting there listening to it, and I'm like, "There's no," and then it hits me like, "Wait a second." So I grab it and then I read it, and it says, she's sitting there playing piano, and I was like, that makes way more sense because like some of the subtleties where I was just like, man, whoever's playing is reading her mind, and it turns out it's her.
Yes, she was a marvelous musician. One of the things that I regret to this day was, because I was young when I was working with her, but the way she used vibrato was like so sophisticated. She would start notes with none, and then gradually and speed it up and diminuendo at the same time. And then she'd do the opposite. I mean, all these different things. And I never talked to her about it. And later when I moved to LA actually with her gig in 75. And shortly after that, John Hurd and some of my friends were studying with this wonderful Israeli classical bass teacher. And so I began to study with Ami Parat, was his name. And so I started studying with Ami. And at my first lesson, he asked me, let me hear your vibrato. So I'm playing with the bow. And then he says, well, can you go slower? Can you go fast? All these different things. So he had an exercise where we had to go da, quarter notes, da, gi, di, da, and it really made me start thinking about sass.
And then if you could have...
I really think it was intuitive to her. I mean, she had, and to me, she had the greatest instrument of any female jazz vocalist.
Right, I mean,
which is just a gift, you just get it or you don't.
Right.
And her range was like...
I mean, it's insane.
She could sound like Billy Eckstein.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. She just... Man, when I finally realized it was her playing piano.
Yeah.
Because I knew she played piano.
Yeah.
But I didn't, I don't know, it hit me. I was just like, wow. Because you can hear her playing, and, there's like one of the themes that you could tell she likes. She keeps playing 13. She keeps playing on the 5 chord, 13 flat 9. So it's like this very, dark sound, and she keeps doing it. And then,
on dominant chords.
Yeah, and, on some of the chord, the way she moves throughout the keys.
Yeah.
Is very clever because I think she's in C, and then I'm pretty sure at the end of it she just goes to D flat because she can just do all the black keys.
Yeah.
Because she has this moment where she's like, and it just sounds amazing, and it's so good.
The CDs were just that.
Oh my god, yeah. And you can find it on YouTube. I found it because I was showing someone.
Yeah.
But it's just to hear how she's navigating and singing, and how she kind of is just. Oh, well, maybe let's just do this. And she's kind of laughing. It's just... Yeah. It's it's amazing.
Another great story that you just reminded me of great moments with Sarah was we were working in Boston at the Symphony Hall there in Boston. And Michael Gibbs, who was quite a composer and arranger, he wrote stuff that Gary Burton and all those guys were... He taught at Harvard composition.
Okay.
And so he invited Sass to come and do a clinic. And so I guess the whole trio went. I know Schroeder and I went. And there was vocal students and instrumentalists, a whole lot of people there in the afternoon. And so one of the girls, who was a girl singer, said something, when they were asking questions, and she said, well, jazz singing is when you scat sing, dooba-dooba-dooba-doo. And Sarah says, no. And she turns to us, she says, let's play Body and Soul. So we start Body, Soul, Schroeder plays a little bit. We play, she goes 8 or 10 bars, pretty much singing the Johnny Green melody.
Singing, yeah.
And then with words, and then stops us. She says, start again. we start again. You still know it's body and soul. She's singing the words. It's all the Sarah Vaughan stuff.
Yeah.
She goes 10, 12 bars, stops us, start again. And it was the genius of Sarah Vaughan. And I was sitting there just like, hearing it. Yeah. And what a lesson.
I can imagine. Jeez, yeah. Did you ever have I'm trying to think, like, playing with someone like that, like, did you ever have moments where you ask her, like, well, what do you want me to play here? Or did you ever ask, like, have, like, music talk or, like, harmony talk? Or did she talk in numbers? Or did she ever talk about it?
No.
Okay.
I don't think we had a couple rehearsals over, here and there with some new material.
Did she have, like, a list? Like, how did you...
She had a big book. I mean, like, that thick.
Okay.
But, huge. Chick Corea had written charts, and Bob James, he worked with her years ago.
Okay.
And, Jimmy Jones from way back with Roy Haynes and Richard Davis. So it was an amazing book. But she would have maybe a body of 35 tunes that were sort of currently the ones
that she kind of revolved.
That she did.
Okay.
And then she'd drop a few and add a few. And so it was this. But the book had like 350 tunes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you never really had, like, that's cool. So you guys just kind of... What about with Carl? Did you ever sit down and, like, how was that? Because you said that... Didn't he kind of show you, like...
Oh, man. I learned more about music from Carl Schroeder than anybody on the planet.
Wow.
And I may have told you this story at one of the lessons.
Yeah, refresh my memory. I don't mind.
Yeah, it's the one song that I played a solo on, and Jimmy got featured on too. Schroeder would play on different tunes, 8 bars, half a chorus. But she did a kind of a pretty bright blues, not like burning, but definitely on the upper side of the tempo, and would feature each of us to solo on it. And I would play this stuff, and it was just like getting to me,
Like it wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah, it was. It was exasperating.
I see.
And Schroeder is from New York. He's got that typical New York attitude, But he's a teddy bear. He's one of my dear friends, and I love him. And so we're hanging out at the bar after the gig one night and having a beer or something. I said, Carl, I'm really getting sick of that stuff I'm playing on the blues. And Carl says, yeah, me too. He says, yeah, me too. It's just a bunch of finger crap. That was his exact words to me.
That's hilarious.
No filter, no tact, but absolutely to the point of what was happening.
Okay.
It was stuff.
And that's what you needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I sit there and kind of gulp for a second. I thought, well, I asked him, I'm thinking this in my head. And so my next words to him were, well, can you help me with that? He says, of course I can help you with that. So I had the arpeggios that you all play from the top to the bottom to the top of the bass.
Yeah.
The 5/7 chords,
Yeah, just being able to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got me starting to hear harmonically up and down instead of, I think the 96-7% of us that don't have perfect pitch, who have relative, we hear kind of little linear lines and we can make a little melody or something.
Right.
So that was evidently my natural sense about playing. And so Carl says, no, you have to learn to start hearing vertically, up and down.
So hearing the harmony,
yes,
like really knowing where your melody sits in it or whatever it may be. You're soloing or I see. Okay.
So he got me, and then he had me start a lick book, but I could only. He says you can put as many in, and I had to categorize them. Like I had 2-5-1s. Major, 2-5-1s, 2 beats apiece.
Oh, I see.
Minor.
Different versions of
1-6-2-5, all that sort of familiar.
Yeah.
Coltrane turnarounds, blues licks.
Right.
If I got it from Paul Chambers, I'd put PC.
Cool. And you would just write them out, or?
Yeah, I would write them in this book in the areas that I had.
Do you still have this book?
I do.
Wow.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, And Carl, actually, I've given it to some of the students. And then Carl, we would get together, and he would start playing All the Things You Are.
Mm-hmm.
And I could only play one lick, though. He wouldn't let me play any other lick.
And you would have to play it inside each chord.
Every time that occurred, the 2, 5, 1.
Oh, I see.
I'd have to just solo my own lines. And then when that happened in the tune, it changes keys all.
Right.
I had to play the lick,
Okay.
note for note. And it was real mechanical. And,
right.
I'd even pause, 1, 2, 3, 4, and play the lick,
I see you saying.
And then,
that's funny.
And I thought, it's so rigid. But then one day, and I don't even know if I was with Carl or at a jam, and I hadn't even thought about it.
It just clicked.
I played the lick. And never even thought about that. None of that and it was one of those where you look up at the sky kind of like,
yeah,
who did that?
Right. It just laid.
Yeah. And that's what Carl knew was going to happen.
Right.
And then that one lick turned into left being a lick. I mean, I still might have played it note for note something, but it became just thematic material.
Right.
And that's what I learned was.
And then you can apply that to anything. Really.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then okay. So that seems to make sense because when it seems like it was like mechanical at first in the sense of like how you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
But that gets it to become so natural that it then kind of becomes freeing to where you can tweak it and morph it. It's not really the lick anymore, but it's just you know how to speak with it.
And I had some early ones, like the bird one, da 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 da.
Oh, right.
Ends on the which is a good starting one, and I use that today with students to start hearing the flat and sharp 9 on the dominant chord because it's just a symmetrical.
Right, it's like he does it all the time. But he's the master at like placing it in the best spots.
And moves it to all these different things and phrases it different.
But see, that's what you're saying though. It's like just that idea.
Exactly.
See, to me, I already feel it. Like it's just
I see you're fingering it on the
guitar.
I already
feel
but so this one lick that I got near the end. That I had the 2 part, but the 5 part started with a major 13 and a perfect 5th were the first 2 8th notes.
Okay. Like
on a G7, I go E, D, and then I moved to the flat 13, the E flat, and play. So I was actually, so he actually got me into playing like 2 sounds on the dominant chord.
I see.
And start with this inside, major 13 and perfect 5th, then move the next 3 notes, the next 3 beats, move into the altered scale. So it started becoming this sound that I just heard. That was the lick I was talking to.
Yeah, and you know what?
That I heard.
Like the way you're saying that is, I like when I feel like I've gotten to the point now where I remember when thinking kind of that same thing where, you can play. It's not that you have to choose any specific idea only over that chord every time. It could be. It could be a mixture of it. I mean, it's like the blues. Like you could play. Yeah. It's a major chord, but you could play minor third and just you can get it. But and then you could play major third also.
Yes.
Like minor third, major third. It sounds great. But so it's like it. That's what's interesting about music is that I feel like you can just like lay them on top of each other, even though they're not correct.
Yes.
But that's like the whole beauty, especially the blues stuff. It's like it's inherently like wrong, quote unquote, if you think like, it's a major chord.
It's a wrong note.
Yeah, you're playing a minor third. But it's like it sounds so good.
You learn how to do it.
Right.
And I have these students that get sort of frustrated sometimes, and I explain my growing process. Mine was never an incline of growth. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was practicing and doing these stuff, and I'd go to the gig that night. You wouldn't hear any of the stuff that I was practicing. But eventually what would happen, like those little epiphanies, I would make a step up, and then
you're on that plateau.
Another plateau.
I see.
Then another little step and another plateau. And the other thing I explain to them is that when you start playing, I know for me, I was having a good time. I wasn't playing good time.
Right.
And then
I like that. That's funny.
And then as you start learning the rules, it just feels like the walls closing and closing, and the tunnel's getting narrower and narrower.
Yeah.
But after you, like you're talking about, then you get to that point, and you
Right.
go out the other side,
Yeah.
and it goes back to all that fun you had
Right.
with the sense. Like now, I play major thirds on minor 7 chords,
Right.
which I never could have done.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean. Especially for like if you're so used to playing in and
Yeah.
like playing where it's
And
supposed
as
to be.
bass players, we're pretty much in,
Right. Yeah. That's
root bound guys. We're
right.
all-
Yeah, that's true. You're playing like the most in part.
Yeah.
But which is, from playing what little bass I've played, but
Yeah.
it made me realize, especially for guitar, because it's like you can play, when I play a standard, it's like I can really hear the bass note, the chord quality, and the melody.
Yes.
And it's like it really just makes sense more and more now.
Yes.
So like sharp 11 on this dom. Oh, that I really know what that sounds like now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, oh yeah, I know it's sharp 11. Like
Yeah.
I can. Oh, it's it's an A and we're in E flat. Okay, that's sharp 11.
Yeah.
It's like, but I couldn't like hear it. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
And then it's like now
You knew it intellectually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's how I was too.
But and then it's like you reach that where you get to the end of the tunnel and it opens up.
Yeah.
And it's like then you can really hear it and like see. I find that so interesting. Like what someone like Sarah or Jimmy Cobb or Carl or any of those guys that you played with, that like how do they think about those things, especially nowadays when it's like it's so scholastic in some settings,
Yes.
which is fun, which is cool and fine.
Yeah, there's a definite advantage to that too.
There's a place for that too, and they did that back then. Like all those guys, like they studied and they were scholastic on some level,
Yeah.
like we are now. And then in another level, they were totally not. I think maybe I don't know. I wasn't there, so
I think you're right.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was sort of at the tail end of that. I was, my first big time thing was I joined the Buddy Rich Band.
Right. Yeah.
When I was 21, and on the band was Don Menza, Al Porcino was playing lead trumpet. This great Art Pepper was playing alto.
Cool.
Pat LaBarbera. I mean, it had all these wonderful players on it. And there I was the worst guy too, which was great because obviously,
Right.
You have a chance to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, I got a quick question. Was
Okay.
that must have been intimidating just as a bass player to play with Buddy Rich?
Yes.
Like the bass drum dynamic and connection.
Yes.
Like what was that? Like,
Okay.
like I feel like
Yeah,
I would have been
great.
terrified.
No, that's great. And here I'll tell you honestly, having studied French horn for 12 years.
Right, that's where you come from. Right?
And came my dad was the principal clarinetist, and all I heard was classical music.
Right.
Till my teenage years, and I started to like, Peter Paul and Mary and the Kingston Trio. And
Yeah, okay.
kind of folky. And that's got me interested in the guitar. My dad, of course, got me a classical guitar teacher.
Yeah.
But I kept studying the horn. So I had no sense about feeling confident about using my ears.
Okay.
Music was all emotional to me.
Okay.
And I loved the feelings it created inside of me, But I couldn't tell you a minor chord from a major.
Wow, that's so interesting because like I feel like I know what that feels like because that's kind of where we all start. Unless you grow up in a family or a world that like you're just around it so much.
Yeah.
But like, it's interesting to think about like how you can think about music differently. Like in the beginning, you were so connected to it, like emotionally, but you have no idea kind of like what you're hearing really.
Yeah.
Or like and then what happened? Yeah. So sorry.
So at age 19 is when I got a bass.
Okay.
And that's when I started trying to learn to play jazz. So at 21, I've heard of Buddy Rich, but I don't really know
Okay. Wow.
who, the real thing, the real story.
Wow. Okay.
And the way I got on the band, did you know Joe Murillo?
Yeah.
Joe and Tony
Yeah.
Murillo?
Joe. Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
they came down from Las Vegas, and I had a little gig at the Stage Door in PB. It was my first ever gig with a pianist named Dudley Kendall. And they would come down to get out of the heat and go to the beach, and they would always come in there and kind of sit in, and they talked me into moving up there to Las Vegas.
Okay.
So I moved in 68. I started bass in 66. So right away, within a couple of months, I could read anything. That was the one thing from all the years. I just had to transfer the bass clef.
And so wait, French horn is in what clef?
It's in treble clef, but it's it's in F, so it's a transposing instrument.
Yeah, okay.
But
you were good at reading, and you just had to switch to bass clef.
Switched over, and it
nice.
Came very natural.
Okay, cool.
So I got a gig on a show band in Las Vegas, and it was a small band. It was the old Thunderbird Hotel in Las Vegas. You may have not even heard of it, but it was one of the old from way back. And
it was like the happening spot.
It was just one of them on the street.
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
I get you. Okay,
but it was a small big band with two trumpets. Well, the two trumpets are Chuck Finley and Bobby Shue. Ooh. Two of the great.
Sweet.
Both of those guys, they're a little bit older than me, had already played on Buddy's band.
Oh, okay.
And so the band was in town, and they went and saw the guys, and Don Menza was like the straw boss, and whoever the bass player was leaving.
Okay.
And both Bobby and Chuck recommended me.
Oh, so it was almost like happenstance, and you knew the right people, and it just worked out. Yeah, it's perfect.
These guys, and I love these guys, and Chuck and I later had a house together in Vegas when I was living there. So I got the gig on the thing, and I could read anything in his book.
Cool.
I didn't know any songs, or I was pretty naive.
Nice.
And I
That's
had
cool.
From playing in R&B bands,
Okay.
I played with George Semper and the Kingsmen here in San Diego. I had a sense about playing time, but Buddy didn't say a word to me for about 3 nights, and I'm just.
And you're just playing along, and he's counting in, but he just didn't say anything.
He didn't say anything to me. Yeah. And then, like, the 4th night, he starts in, expletives and all this stuff flying at me. And
like the classic kind of Buddy Rich that you hear.
Because I'm standing right next. And so the more he's yelling at me, the more frightened and the worse I play. I'm just like,
I feel like that would be hard if someone's yelling at you. Just like,
and we're playing concerts, and he's yelling at me, and where's the fire? If I rushed or and
so he's on you. Like,
yeah. I mean, not like continually the whole night.
I get you though, yeah.
But on and off through every, and so then we go on this European tour, and we went all over Europe. We ended up at the Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen, Denmark. And that night he had done some yelling at me. It was the last night of the tour. And I go into his dressing room after the gig, and I said, like I'm real sad, practically in tears. And I'm going to give notice to him, buddy, I'm sorry, I'm not making it, I think this guy hates me.
Right.
And he stands up. I had never known anybody like that, first of all. I have my mother's half Sicilian, all hugs and kisses. And my dad was a very quiet, loving man.
So like characteristic, personality-wise. Like
never
the way
anybody.
I see what you mean.
So I didn't know. I thought he hates me. And so he hasn't told me to leave. So I've been on the band like 2 months.
Okay.
And he gets up and he pats me on the shoulder and he says, that's okay, kid. Anytime you want to play with my band, you let me know. That was his words as I'm walking out of the dressing room. And I'm just like,
wow,
what is going on here? And so
did you regret it? Like after having said that?
Well, here's what happened.
Okay.
We go back to the States. Several guys left. Do you know Joe Azzarello, the piano player? Tom and Joe?
Yeah, I feel like I know that name.
Yeah, they live here.
Okay.
They're from upstate New York. Great. Both of them. Tom's a bass player, wonderful, and Joe's a very fine piano. And Joe was the pianist on the band.
Wow.
So we roomed together. So he left. He had been there quite a while and had it with Buddy Rich.
Okay.
So when we got back to the States, several guys left and new people replaced them on the band. So Buddy starts leaving me alone. He's yelling at the new people.
Oh, I see.
And so I start to kind of relax. and start playing better.
Better and better, yeah.
2 weeks go by. Buddy never says a word. I think to him it was just one of those.
Like you're new.
Yeah, like he knew, this kid's going to be fine.
Okay, I see.
Because when he didn't like people, they were gone 1 or 2 nights.
Oh, so it wouldn't have lasted that long.
I wouldn't have been there for 2 months.
Right. Okay, I see.
But I just didn't know that.
Okay, that's funny.
And so I was lucky in all those situations because both he and Sarah saw that I had some kind of potential.
Right.
That I maybe didn't even see myself. And many times I was ready to give up, even trying to play jazz, thinking,
wow,
I'll play in a symphony orchestra. I'll get, I'll go back.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So how did you find, like you said that you kind of were listening to, like R&B music and playing in different groups.
Yep.
Well, actually, and I also kind of want to ask you about, I was going to say, how did you find jazz? But what I also was thinking, you playing in these groups here in San Diego, what was it like back then, like the music scene here?
Well, the first band I got in was an Ocean Beach kind of rock and roll surfy band.
Okay.
And I have a brother who's 4 years older who took clarinet from my dad and started playing sax.
Okay.
And it was keyboards. The guy that played keyboard was very good, played tenor and keyboard. Bill Lobel, he played guitar and sang. Paul Gerhardt, that was the drummer, and my brother played sax, and then I don't know who the bass player. Anyway, so he drafted me in as a bass player, and I got a Dan Electro. Do you know Dan Electro?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was Sears. It was either Silvertone or Dan Electro. My first bass.
That's cool.
And then later I got a Fender Jazz bass, and so I started playing. I was having a ball, and I was making money on the weekends.
Right.
And then I got a job. There was a music store downtown. There was 2 of them, big ones. Thurls was one, and the other one was called Finders, not Fender, like Fin.
Oh.
I got a job in Finders. I was like selling picks and guitar strings.
It's like gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow George Semper, who ran the Kingsman, he was this amazing, talented guy, came in.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know how. I mean, to this day, I can't remember how. Somehow he found out I played. He hired me to play in this band. And they were playing Bobby Blue Bland and Ike and Tina Turner and James Brown. It was like way over my head.
Okay.
The whole syncopated thing.
Yeah.
But I loved it. So
nice.
Again, and we had horns and
nice.
Steps and all that.
Oh, cool.
And so I played in his band for at least a year, and he was working all the time. And Daniel Jackson used to come and play.
Okay.
When we got bigger gigs.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah. So I met Daniel when I was 17 or something.
Right. That's great.
And there was a great trumpet player named Hugh Parker, who was a wonderful jazz, and he worked for the mail service. He was a mailman, postman. And so they would come in and play on these things. And so the guys in the band were all listening not only to R&B, which I was just listening to that. They started giving me like some Jimmy Smith, funk. So my first stuff that I liked, like I couldn't have heard John Coltrane, but I loved like funky, it was Jimmy Smith.
And you slowly kind of started getting into
Quentin Warren on guitar, and it was kind of R&B. I liked that stuff a lot.
Okay.
HR's a dirty guitar player. I had a Howard Roberts record. And then one of the guys loaned me Kinda Blue.
Okay.
And it literally just blew my mind.
Right.
And I said, because it had harmony like Ravel and the French Impressionists, because of the way Bill Evans was.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I could see that. Yeah, definitely.
So I heard this.
It has that same kind of.
That I really connected with that.
Right.
From my classical
From
music.
where you came from. Yeah.
Which the Impressionists were that and the Russians were my favorite composers.
Okay, I see. Like that sound, you really connected with that, and then to hear it in a different.
And so I heard it with with the grooves that I love.
Right.
And I said, I got to do that.
Okay.
So that's when I went out and got a bass.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So that's cool to see how, like, because I find it interesting just the scene here in San Diego in general, but then to think about it like back then, and like all you guys are running around, like you and Daniel, and like. And like, when was Harold Land? Wasn't Harold Land from San Diego? When was he around?
Way before me.
Okay, yeah, that was way okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember finding out that, you know,
yeah, he was a San Diego guy.
It was just interesting to see like all these people that you kind of know, and you're like, wow, these guys are just chilling in SD, and like,
yeah.
And then you found your way to like the jazz stuff.
Yeah, it was through those guys. They were turning me on.
And then you ended up playing with some of them. I mean, well,
I worked with Harold a lot.
Okay.
And Harold was I was a tennis player when I started in my middle age.
Okay.
I didn't play as a kid and just fell in love with it, you know, would watch the tournaments and really, and Harold played really good. So every time we worked together, he and I used to play tennis.
Nice.
Cedar Walton was a good. Harold was really good.
Okay.
He would pretty much always beat me, you know. And I'm younger, and you know I'm hitting the ball harder, but he just kept hitting it back.
He knows,
you know, until I made mistakes.
That's funny.
So I don't think I ever beat him. But Cedar played. We played tennis whenever we worked. John Bunch, the pianist from New York, when he came out.
Okay.
He and I played tennis. There was a bunch of guys that were.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know what? After hearing like some of the names, like, you know, like Daniel Jackson or Joe Morello, it's like I got to hang out with Joe a little bit and play with him, and like, but I was kind of new, and I didn't, you know, I was like trying to learn music and jazz and stuff, and so like I feel like I didn't really get to like really
take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of why I'm doing all this stuff now, just because now, anyways. But it's cool to see that, like, you know, I didn't know who they were, especially like someone like Daniel. It's like, well, I didn't, you know.
Yeah.
I started realizing he's kind of important. I'm like, who is this guy? You know, you kind of see, and then like you start to hear all these stories. He played on Ray Charles. Or and then even like
and Lenny McBrown and the Four Souls.
Okay, yeah, and like what guitar player? Jesus, I can't. What am I thinking of his name? He passed away recently. He lived in San Diego. Hello. It's so obvious. I can't believe I'm spacing right now. I have a record with him.
Mundell?
Mundell, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Mundell Lowe.
Hello.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I got to, you know, when you did the, what was the event at Dizzy's?
Where I played with Mundell?
Yeah, when he was there.
Yeah, I played a lot with Mundell.
No, I mean, it was like right before he passed away. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I got to go, and we actually played a tune together, you and me.
Oh.
Yeah, we played I Fall in Love Too Easily. I remember
nice.
it. Yeah, I was super nervous. But I remember Monday was there, and I was like, I didn't really, like, I knew who he was.
Yeah.
But I just looking back, it would be so cool to, like, be able to sit down, you know, like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
With, like, those two guys and other, you know, it's just interesting to see, like, the history.
And he wrote film scores. And,
right, yeah.
And he produced the Monterey Jazz Festival for years.
Wow.
I went up and played the Monterey Festival. I don't remember who was in the band, but speaking about what you're speaking about, I'll tell you one of the really dumbest, naive kids was me when I lived in Las Vegas. I always loved classical music and still do to this day. And so I had played in the San Diego Symphony on the bass. And when I moved to Las Vegas, I got in that orchestra there so that I could keep, because it wasn't a full-time orchestra, you know. And so I would go and play. And next to me on the stand that I was playing on was Ka-Chow.
Oh, my God.
But I didn't know who he was.
No way. You're blowing my mind.
He was just the nicest guy. And I didn't know anything about Latin music.
African music for sure.
And I was so consumed, you know, with trying to learn to play jazz. It was just tunnel vision.
Right.
And here I could have taken lessons.
That's crazy.
With Ka-Chow. So later, when I got on the Sarah Vaughan gig, I don't know who wrote the chart, Chick or something, but there was one. It had a chart with that. Boom, boom, bing, boom,
like a tune valve,
for sure. 2, 4, 1, and I couldn't play it to save my life.
Wow, that's funny.
You know, and I could have taken.
You're sitting right next to the legend. That's like
the guy that granddad of Latin bass playing, and I could have.
That's so funny.
I forget his real name was, and I knew him by his real name.
God, I don't even know his real name.
Yeah, it's Israel Lopez.
Oh, you're right. No, that's it.
I think that's it.
I think you're right. Yeah.
He played in that. What was that? The something club. Buena Vista Social Club.
Yeah.
All the famous. But talk about a dumb kid.
Right.
I didn't learn it.
I mean, the thing is, how are you supposed to know if you don't know? Like,
yeah.
He's sitting right now. Yeah. Wow, that's so funny. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I could have taken lessons with him, you know.
So he was. So wait, it was in a symphony thing that you were doing?
Yeah, we were in the Las Vegas Symphony together, and we were stand partners. We were side by side.
For how long?
I was, at least a year or so. I lived there a couple of years.
That's even more crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I had no concept or interest in Latin music, other than playing jazz, bossa
right.
novas.
Okay.
I didn't listen to Latin music. Later did I learn how hip it was and how wonderful. And then I realized who I was with.
That's such a good story.
Oh, isn't it? Talk about a naive kid.
I'm just imagining like you and Kachow sitting there reading classical music together and you have no idea who's sitting right next to you.
We're just playing, and he was a fine classical player.
Yeah.
Those guys are trained.
Yeah, for sure.
Puerto Rican guys and Cuban guys, they have real serious music schools. The other, let's see.
Wow, you're blowing my mind. That's cool.
Oh, I have another funny story. I was with Sarah, and we were in Puerto Rico, and Bill Mays was playing piano at this time. Jimmy Cobb, me, and we were going to be. We did maybe 2 weeks there, and we played at a hotel. And I remember the name. It was called the Flamboyant Hotel, and they had a house, kind of a big band, house band, and they always played. And then Sarah would come out and do her set, and our trio would go in. And there was this really great young kid playing drums in the house band. And so one day he comes up to me and Bill Mays and he says, would you guys come in the afternoon and jam with me, And so, we said, yeah, we'd love to, just think. So we go and we play, and it's very nice, and he's a young, talented Latin guy. And so then later I'm in LA, and I'm working around and playing Dante's and all these clubs. And I was working in Dante's one night, and in comes this guy. And of course, I was hearing this name. He had joined Weather. I think Peter Erskine was first, and then did Alex Acuna come after into Weather Report?
I don't know.
I think so. And so I'm hearing this name all around town.
Okay.
Alex, he's like the hot new Alex Acuna. So I'm getting off the bandstand, and he was kind of a short. This guy comes up and he says, Bob Magnusson. And I said, yeah. And he says, I'm Alex Acuna. I said, I've been hearing all about, I'm telling him how much he says, you played with me at the Flamboyant. He was the kid.
That's so funny.
That Bill and I went and played with.
And then you ran into him again, realizing that, that's who it was.
And
that's
he
who this
came up, and he was so glad that we had played.
That's cool.
So it's good to be nice to young guys.
You don't know who you're talking to. That's funny. Yeah, that's a good lesson, actually. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Wow.
Yeah, that's
cool.
A funny story, isn't it?
That's really cool. It's funny how small, especially the music world is.
Yeah.
It's like, and especially, I guess, maybe even like back then before internet, just like the word of mouth kind of thing.
Yes.
Where you would hear, and it's funny how, you see this guy that you played with, but then you don't really know his name, or you forget, and then it's just not as, like now it's like, you can, I know that guy, I've seen him before.
Yeah.
It's just way different now, but that's cool.
But, for me, I was right on the end of that thing where there were still training bands.
Right, okay.
Like Art Blakey, all those guys became leaders in their own. Benny Golson, Lee Morgan, on and on and on. Cedar Walton. And Horace Silver's band.
They were like little labs to like cultivate.
Yeah. Guys would leave, and young guys. And the Jazz Tat, Art Farmer and Benny Golson's Jazz Tat.
It's funny that you say that, because I just got that record. And I or one of them. Is there two of them? I don't know how many there are.
That I'm on, you mean?
No, on the Jazz Tet though. Are you on one of them?
I made 2 of them with
Really?
with Benny. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
okay.
there's a bunch of jazz.
So there's a bunch of them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I found one the other day.
Oh yeah, they were a big famous group.
Oh, that's cool. And I saw it and
There's
I was
probably
like,
30 or something.
really? Okay.
25.
Okay, yeah, I need to look it up some more. But
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, Curtis Fuller, Art
Yeah.
Farmer,
Yeah.
Benny. What? McCoy's young? Like,
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
And
McCoy
then
was.
I was teaching a lesson and I was telling my student, I was like, hey, check out this record. You know, you should listen to it. It's good. And he notices on there, he's like, hey, that's Art Farmer's twin playing bass.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And
Addison.
And I was like, it looks exactly like him.
Yeah, they were twin, and Addison died very young.
Okay.
I got to work with Art, who was one of my heroes. You know,
Yeah, that's cool.
quite a few.
I
times.
love Art Farmer.
Oh man.
Yeah,
His
that's
playing.
yeah. It's like so unique.
Yeah, and he's that kind of a man too.
Okay.
He was just a sweetheart.
I could kind of imagine what he must have been like just from his playing.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So those kind of bands were and Sarah and the singers, Carmen, you know, Ella, those were all training grounds. Richard
Right.
Davis and Roy
Right.
Haynes played with Sarah.
Yeah.
You know, so I was on the very end of that, and the last of the big band. I didn't go to any music school. There were a couple. That Berkeley was going in Boston. North Texas had a jazz department,
Okay.
and Bloomington, Indiana had George Russell was teaching there.
Oh, cool.
And then later Dave Baker took. And I think those were the only music jazz departments.
Yeah, because it seems like there must have not been that many.
No,
really.
there wasn't. This is 1966 they were
Okay.
talking about. You know, and now it's all over the world. you
Right,
know.
yeah. I mean, now it's, yeah.
But there
everywhere.
was some jazz education through universities and stuff. So I was really blessed, you know, that I had this sort of hard knocks.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you kind of had, that was like the real.
Yeah, I was earning. I call it earn while you learn.
Right. I like
So
that.
I played on the Buddy Rich Band a little over a year, and then probably within a year or so after that, I got the Sarah Vaughan gig.
Okay.
You know, and then I came back here, played in the symphony again, and then in '75 I moved to LA.
Okay.
We had Matthew, we had a son and a daughter, and we moved. As soon as we got up there, again, Sarah had asked me to rejoin.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have 2 dimes to rub together. And she said, find a house, go to I forget the fella's name, we'd go to get our checks. She says, go to him, whatever you're cleaning, you know, first and last and cleaning deposit.
Oh, okay.
He'll give it to you. And
Oh, so that way you could like go like, oh, here's our deposit for the house
Yeah.
or whatever. You could get it going.
She made that possible.
Wow. So she
And
just like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and she said, and just pay it back, you know, however you can. There's no interest or, you know. So that got us, and I was ready to go to L.A. And I'd taken Janet to New York when I was with Sarah earlier, the first time, 72 and 73, and Matthew was still, and she said, well, it's, you know, it's fun to be here, but I could
You
never
wanted to
live
live
here.
there. So you were kind of deciding on where.
I was looking
Okay.
down the road. I wanted to try to test myself. I was young and had that sort of fire or whatever you
And
call it.
were you born in San Diego?
No, I was born in New York City, actually.
Okay.
My dad had won they were called fellowships,
Okay.
what we call scholarships now, to Juilliard.
Oh, okay. Because your dad was a musician.
Principal clarinet here in the orchestra.
In the symphony.
World-class classical.
Cool. Wow.
Jim Plank knew him, you know, and
Okay.
he was an amazing classical. He couldn't improvise a lick.
Okay.
So I was born while he was he started the fellowship before the war, and then the war started, 41 when they bombed Pearl Harbor. He went into the Army, and you know how, I don't know, even if you watch old films from that era, all the colonels and generals, they want to have the best boxing team
Oh.
and the best baseball players. They're all vying to
Right.
get them to their forts.
I see.
Well, they did the same thing with musicians.
Oh.
So when they saw that my dad had this fellowship to Juilliard,
Right.
quite a few different forts were trying to get him.
Oh, okay.
So he stayed in this country the whole war playing clarinet.
Oh, wow. So he was kind of able, he got lucky.
Yeah.
Wow. So
'Cause
he was
he
able
had
to
the-
escape
Yeah.
kind of going, but
He never went overseas or had to fight or.
wow.
So when the war ended,
That's great. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So like music kind of saved him.
yes,
Wow.
it really did. And so the war ended in 1945, and so I guess then he went back to Juilliard.
Okay.
My dad was such a sweetheart of a guy, thoughtful guy. And so because he had this scholarship, this fellowship, and the school only has so many that they give out,
Okay.
he was eligible for the Veterans VA schooling.
Oh, okay.
He gave the scholarship back to the school and finished on the VA loan and graduated from our study with a wonderful clarinetist named Arthur Chrisman. So I was born in 1947 while he was attending school there.
Okay.
And then, but I haven't, I think we left when I was 2 or something.
And you guys came here?
We went to LA for a year. He taught at the LA Conservatory.
Oh, wow.
And then we came here. And so I consider myself a native
Right. I see what you mean.
San Diego.
Yeah. Okay. That's so cool. I was going to ask you something. I just thought of it when you were talking, but now I can't remember.
It'll come back.
But that's cool. So like, I was going to ask you, what was it like? I mean, growing up, like was your mom a musician too?
Classical pianist.
Oh, wow. So you were just
And piano
surrounded.
teacher. Yeah.
Okay. So it was like definitely like a classical
Only.
frame of mind. Okay.
I never heard anything.
So what did they
They
think?
didn't
Like,
listen to any popular music
okay.
in the home.
Okay. So what did they think when you kind of started playing more like popular stuff and like jazz stuff and then like improvising and like did you ever have like conversations with your mom or your dad about?
Yeah, in a sense, because you know how you go through phases as a kid and
Right.
parents think, so they paid for French horn lessons for 12 years.
Oh, okay.
And at the end, I was commuting to LA and studying with Ralph Pyle in the LA Philharmonic.
Oh, wow. So okay.
I was really serious about being a classical French horn player. And I had won a little scholarship one summer and went to the USC Idlewild music camp. And, I was into it. And then when I started playing the bass, I think my parents just thought it's like a phase.
It's like, okay, I see. Yeah, it's not going to last or something.
Right. And so then, I don't know, I'd been playing, I forget for how long, probably close to a year, kind of. And I got into the San Diego Symphony.
Okay.
And when I came home and told them that, my mother just literally kind of crumbled onto the floor. And at that point, they knew I was serious about the bass. And I told them, I said, physically the bass feels more comfortable. Just the whole physical thing of how you play it.
Yeah.
Than the French horn ever did. And I'm a huge French horn fan.
Okay.
Wow. But isn't that funny? Just
you
that
just kind of took to it more. It just felt more natural.
The whole
about
physical thing of it laid to me. And then as I got, they came and heard me with Linda Ronstadt, and they heard me with Sarah, and
well, yeah, what did they think about
they started trying to kind of like this is a funny story. What was that? Yeah, remember Yanni? Do you know who?
I feel like I know who that is.
It was kind of like, it's those sort of PBS shows that you see where the violinists have the long hair with the big orchestra.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yanni was the guy like that.
Yeah.
I even forget what Yanni played. And so my parents bought a Yanni record, thinking that it was good. Yeah, we'll show this to Bob. I told him I hate Yanni.
That's funny.
I didn't want to hurt their feelings too much, but they were so. And I actually made a record with my dad.
Oh, cool.
With Peter, Jim Plank, and Bill Mays, and it was called Two Generations of Music. There was a wonderful saxophone player in L.A. who I worked with in the Bobby Shue Quintet, and his name was Gordon Brisker. He was from Cincinnati. I mean, just amazing musician, could compose and was trying really hard to get into the film scoring. Couldn't get arrested, just such a clicky thing. And so I got Albert Marks, who owned Discovery Records, who I had my little contract with, the small jazz company, and talked him into paying Gordy to write a sonata for clarinet. So we recorded it. But what I didn't know, and it was very disappointing for me, we went up to LA, we were recording, and my dad had this sort of vibrato. Well, he never played with vibrato. There was the French clarinetists kind of did, but all the Germans and English and everybody else played just straight tone, pure tone, and any vibrato that happened was just from the intensity of the sound. And so I'm thinking, well, is he nervous? He's played solos with the symphony and all this pressure stuff,
right?
Where you have to play the exact note.
Right.
We can at least cover a
God, yeah, that sounds so stressful just to be in that way. Like it's so opposite.
And so I said, Dad, if we don't like it, we'll just make another take.
Right.
Well, what had happened, and I don't know if he even knew or wasn't saying, he was getting Parkinson's disease, and it started in his left hand.
Oh, and so it started creating.
Yeah, so there was a slight tremor, and it had always been kind of a dream to do a record together, but it's not. I knew how great he played.
I see what you're saying. It's not.
It wasn't at the level that, the record is made. It got out.
That's cool. At least you have something. Then.
Yeah, I have that,
Yeah.
and but I was. Because he was like a world-class clarinetist, So, but it was a great experience to get to do it with him. It was kind of one of my dreams.
Nice. That's really cool. Yeah, my parents aren't really musical, so that would be weird to think about making an album. Like, that'd be cool. But that's cool though.
Yeah.
We
had such a tradition of it, and I would go to sleep. I live in my parents' house. We bought it.
Okay.
In 1985, Janet and I bought it from
Nice.
them. So all our kids grew up there.
That's
too,
cool.
In Point Loma, and so I would be downstairs. My brother and I had a sister and brother and I was the youngest of the three, and so the Woodwind Quintet, the San Diego Woodwind Quintet, would rehearse at our home.
So you were surrounded, yeah.
Yeah, I would go to sleep at night listening to all this. Jacques Ibert and Gabriel Fauré and these amazing, wonderful composers that wrote. There's a ton of literature for woodwind. It's like string quartet, for woodwind quintet.
Okay.
Tons of literature.
Nice.
So I had this great love, and probably in junior high, I knew I was going to be a musician.
Okay.
Which made me kind of a screw off at school, which wasn't that smart.
That's
Because
funny.
I thought, I don't need math and English to play. I'm going to play French horn.
You already knew that you were going to, yeah. Well, maybe you didn't know that it was bass yet.
Oh, no, I had no idea about
But you
bass.
knew that you wanted to play music or something.
I thought I'd play French horn in a symphony.
Okay.
That was what I wanted to do.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's way cool. I was going to show you if you want. I found some videos of you online.
Okay.
We don't have to play them, but we can at least maybe just pull them up so you can see. I'm sure you've seen them. But here's one with you and Kenny Burrell.
Kenny Burrell, yeah. Oh, I loved him. He took me on the road on a few things. Lovely man. Is he still alive at UCLA? Do you know?
I don't know.
I haven't heard if he's passed or not.
And then here's one with you with Joe Pass.
Joe Pass.
These are all videos, but if you're they can watch them later. But
yeah,
and then,
there's a real good one from Musicians Institute with Joe Porcaro. You know the Porcaro boys? They had a band called Toto.
Oh yeah, is that
That's Joe's kids.
Oh,
I think his son was the drummer. He died from some real unusual thing.
And then here's one with you. And
oh
yeah.
man, I love it. What a sweetheart.
And there's another one, but
Yeah.
I was just like looking up some stuff, so it's cool to see and like. But I mean, just for like guitar nerd for me, what was it like playing with like either of those two or who else? You mentioned a guitar player I hadn't heard of before earlier. I can't remember his name.
Joe DiOrio?
No, not Joe. That one I know that name, and I've heard some of his stuff.
I worked with Barney, and I worked with Herb Ellis.
Wow.
That whole generation.
That's so cool.
Mundell, Bucky Pizzarelli.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lorindo Almeida, the Brazilian guitarist. I worked a lot with Lorindo and made records. Who else is from that generation? Oh, Gene Bertoncini. I love his.
Oh, I don't know that.
Oh, do you know who he is?
No. Oh yeah, you
He's
got. I'm gonna look.
guy.
I'm gonna Google some of this stuff. For sure.
Gene Bertoncini. He's a marvelous player and a great guy. The wonderful Canadian guy I played with that died. He was a junkie. Very famous, obscure. Joey Barron and I used to work at Dante's with him. Can't think of his name. Ronnie Este. I played a ton with Ronnie.
Cool.
Because we worked with Dave Pike, the vibraphonist,
Okay.
around LA a lot. Frank Potenza, do you know Frank?
Yeah, you know what, Holly. I found him through Holly.
Oh, he's a wonderful.
Because
player.
he was supposed to play some gig for the Hannerly one day, and he had to cancel last minute. And so I ended up playing, but she was like, "Oh, can you do this?" And I ended up checking him out because she said, "Yeah, you got to check." I was like, "Yeah, I've heard that name. I never really looked," so I looked up.
We made a duo album together. So some of it is solos and duos with Frank. He's a wonderful guy and a wonderful player. Ronnie Este. I don't know. Oh, I wish I could think of that guy's name. Because if you don't know him, he's a guy you would want to check out.
Well, what's nice is the one I forgot. I'm just going to rewatch this and I'll find the name.
Yeah. Am I playing with him?
No. Just you said one earlier that I wanted to remember, but I'll think of it.
Okay.
Later.
Oh, that bugs me. Senior moments and I can't.
So the Jazz Tet thing, who was in it when you played, like when you recorded that stuff?
Well, there were Benny's albums. I did one with it's Benny, me, Roy McCurdy on drums.
Oh, wow.
Bill Mays on piano, and me. It's a quintet. And the trombonist.
Curtis.
Yeah, and Curtis. We did one with that, and then we did another one with Thurman Green. It was Benny, Thurman Green. Great trumpet player. Another name I can't think of. Same rhythm section. McCurdy, me, and Bill Mays. Great a black guy trumpet player in L.A. Forgetting his name. I can see him. So I made 2 records with Benny, and then I did a lot of touring with Benny.
Nice.
To Europe and Japan. In fact, the very last tour I ever did
was with him.
Oh,
cool.
You know, this hand things was starting. It was a few years ago.
Yeah, I think I remember Mac telling me that you were going.
Yeah, and it was with his regular band.
Okay. Benny's regular band.
Yeah,
at this point,
his New York band. I saw Buster Williams couldn't make it.
Okay.
And it was a week in the Jazz Note in Tokyo.
Oh, cool.
And geez. Anyways, wonderful drummer and pianist. And so Benny calls me on the phone and he says, Buster, I'd love to have you, because I did all his West Coast stuff. Okay. After he was in LA when we first met. Okay. And then he made a home in New York, and he had a place in Bohemia in the south of Germany because there were so many festivals in the summer.
Oh, wow.
So he's basically been in New York since he left LA, but he still has the house. And he called me and said, and told me, Buster can't, and we've got this week, and so I says, Benny, my hands are just getting, I can't play anything fast. No, I can't play any fast tempos. He says, neither can I.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
And then he says, all my material, because I'd worked with him so much. He says, all my material, and he's a wonderful storyteller. I don't know if you've ever.
No, I've never. I
don't know if you'll get the chance, but when he's live, he tells he's such an eloquent speaker.
Oh, okay.
Really a brilliant guy. And he tells these wonderful stories, like growing up with John Coltrane.
Okay.
In Philadelphia, and he's got all these.
He's still alive, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Although I sent an email, it's probably been at least a month ago, and I haven't heard it.
Okay.
So I've been worrying. I called Jim Murad. He said he hadn't heard either. So I don't know.
Where does he live?
In New York.
Oh, okay.
And his wife got Alzheimer's and has been in a facility, but he has a daughter, Brielle, who never married, beautiful girl, and Brielle must be in her 50s, and she's been an airline hostess, and has lived with him and takes care of
nice
Bobby, his wife, too, when she was there. So then after he says, I can't play fast either, and all my songs, and he says, and I says, how my hands are. He says, well, we only play like 2 sets a night. He says, and you know how I am with my stories.
So you'll be able to rest.
He says you can rest between. And so he talks me into going.
That's cool.
And I had a ball.
Nice.
It was.
So you're glad you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you would know these guys.
The guys that were playing?
Yeah, the drummer, they're all New York guys.
I'm sure I can look it up too.
Yeah, we had a ball, and they were. I had never met either of them, and they had a really nice bass for me there. I brought my own little pickup stuff and files.
You put a
did a little setup work on it.
Cool.
And it was really a fun thing.
Well, I would love to hear. I'll have to search for some Benny Golson stuff where he's like talking and telling stories.
Oh yeah.
It's funny that you said, because
stuff.
I just found I was watching on Instagram Live the other day. Kenny Washington has been on there, and he's been going live.
Super known.
And so I was just sitting there watching it, and I was just like, man, it'd be so cool if you could get that for some of these older guys, that are still around.
Yeah.
That, he could sit there and.
Oh man.
I'm sure he could tell a story.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he tells Benny wrote, I remember Clifford.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I was just looking at that with a student, and I really like that.
He tells a wonderful story. They were working in.
It's a beautiful song.
Oh. I
never knew it had words.
Oh yeah. Well, that came later.
Yeah. I heard a Kenny Dorham version of him singing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I never heard this with words.
Yes.
It sounds...
Carmen and all those people sang it.
Okay, I'll have to check some more out.
I don't know who wrote the lyric. I'm not sure.
I think I looked it up, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you could figure it out.
Yeah. But he tells a wonderful story about that.
Okay.
Clifford, because they were... And I guess Clifford was just a sweetheart from what Benny told me, And of course, I heard all the Coltrane stories from Philadelphia.
Oh man, I gotta hear some of these. Yeah, I'll have to search for some of them.
Yeah,
that's cool. So you ended up going to do it, and was it fun? How were your hands? Did they?
I did fine. Okay. Yeah. Oh God.
And what was wrong with your hands, real quick?
Well, what started was I started getting arthritis, osteoarthritis.
Okay.
All through here, with lots of pain going into my thumbs. Oh. And then after so I started with my family doctor, and then I went to an orthopedic guy. And then he sent me to a hand surgeon, and what turned out was all the cartilage that's the pad between your wrists and your hands, had disintegrated.
Wow.
And so I had bone on bone.
Oh, okay.
Is pain. And then they tried giving me cortisone shots, which hurt like hell right into there. They did it with like when they look at a baby, because the air is
like an ultrasound.
Yeah, ultrasound, and then the needle would go in, and I've had that in my elbow, and it worked fabulous. But this didn't do a thing, and I did it maybe three times in each wrist, and then it was getting so bad, and I wasn't thinking so much about reviving bass playing as just living, because just doing things, the pain shoots through there.
Like just opening a doorknob or
certain things, certain motions.
Okay.
Like right now, when my hand's still, I'm fine, but I'll do something or turn something, and it's just like shooting pain.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, and bass playing, I can't do at all.
Okay.
And so, December before last, I went in and had surgery. They cut this tendon up my arm lengthwise, and then they go in here. They knock me out, and they pin it in, and they run it around, and they run it through. There's a kind of a loop in your thumb here. They run it through that, and then he brings that tendon back in where the cartilage was, and makes like a S back and forth.
Wow.
And that becomes the new tendon.
Like the new pad.
Yeah, a new pad. And so, but it takes 6 months to heal.
Wow.
And so my original thought was once I did it, that maybe I would, the next December, do the left hand.
The other, I see. The same thing, but in the other hand.
On the other hand. Because it was identical in both hands.
That must have been terrifying. Well, I guess... Well, maybe at this point, your career, you already had, I don't know, I guess right now, the idea of me like...
Yes, if I was your age, it would be terrifying.
Okay.
But I had already played 50-some years.
Man, I smashed my finger the other day at Gilbert's gig, and I was like, oh man, am I going to be able to play? I thought like I smashed it. Really, so, yeah, and so, but I was, but I can't imagine like,
So anyways, I had kind of several different, nothing was a hard cast.
Okay.
One was hard with a rod through it, that I had
to keep it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everything stayed perfectly still. And I wore that for 2 or 3 months. And then I started physical therapy. Well, while I was healing, all my fingers started getting the arthritis started going into my fingers, and I was having all kinds of pain.
Okay.
So then I just said, well, I'm not going to go through 6 months.
I see.
So I just said, I'm just going to live with it.
Yeah.
But on that subject that you were talking about, I really feel blessed because as it was getting worse, Plank and I used to meet in his garage once a week, and I could last maybe an hour and 20 minutes or something. He'd play vibes, and we would just play the two of us.
Okay.
Like, you start in a garage band, I ended up in a garage.
That's funny. Full circle.
And finally, I just said, Jim, it's time.
Yeah.
And I didn't mope or feel sorry for myself, and I was actually relieved, Louis, because it was like a catch-22 because I was still trying to play. I had to stop practicing years ago, and people would come out from friends from New York or down from LA or call me to play in LA. And I knew, I kept in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, worrying, sometime it's going to happen, they're going to play something, and I can't play it. Well, I went up to Soka University.
I've heard of that place,
and they have a wonderful series of jazz concerts. The pianist and the tenor player were from New York. Grant, really good players. So we meet in the afternoon. We run they have a few originals. We run through those. And then we pick out some tunes. Do you know this? Do you know that? Fine. One of them was Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. I said, sure, I'm fine with that. So we go play the concert. Everything's going fine. Then they start Don't Mean a Thing, but they play it like...
Oh, they're really fast.
I couldn't play it.
Okay.
It was the thing I had been...
Dreading.
Yeah,
for sure. Fearing. I can imagine. Yeah.
And I had I started having all these physical ailments. My whole right side of my jaw was all locking up. I had 4 root canals, twice in the same tooth. Then I had teeth pulled.
Wow. Yeah,
they put me on a drug called gabapentin, which made me anyways, none of it was my teeth. And I was supposed to go on a tour in Italy with this. It was an art. I had done it once before. It was George Cable's, me, Carl Burnett, with this Italian alto player named Gaspari Pacini, who was a very good alto player and loved Art Pepper. And he wanted guys, and he got permission from Art's widow, Lori, to do this. I forget what he actually called it. The Art Pepper's Legacy.
Oh, so, okay.
And we were toured. So I had done one with the band, and we had another one planned for that, some right before, and I couldn't eat. I went down to 168 pounds. Emily, my daughter, was buying me the old people drink, those milkshake things. I couldn't even get that down. And my doctor, they were giving me every stomach test that they knocked me out in tubes. And
wow, crazy.
Yeah, because the gig was coming up, and I'm trying to, and I had warned Gaspar. I said, "Look, you better have somebody standing
just in
by."
case." Yeah.
And so it finally comes down to I have to call and say I'm not going to make it. Elliott was over there in Europe, and so he did the tour.
Okay.
And he plays with George's trio, so it worked out fine for as far as that. So I go to my family doctor, and I'm sitting, and she played banjo in a kind of a country, those kind of bands. Mm-hmm. And she knew I was a musician, and I said, Susan, it's like when you get butterflies,
okay,
like you're going to play a big gig or concert, and but once you go on stage, they kind of go away, and you play. But
it stayed.
But this was not going away, and they couldn't figure out why I couldn't eat. Food looked fine to me, but I couldn't. And so she listens to me, and she writes this for Xanax, which is an anti-anxiety drug.
Oh, okay.
She says, go over, Ocean Beach to Rite Aid, get some water, take one, and I'm going to have you try. It was like a miracle.
Really?
Yeah. I took the pill within an hour. There's a little deli called Olive Tree. I went over.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
I got a sandwich. I got a Coke. I got a bag of potato chips.
Wow, it's a total opposite.
Yeah. I drove out to Sunset Cliffs. It was I sat there and I ate and watched the ocean. And I've been on the drug ever since and been fine.
Okay.
So none of it was my teeth. All that work I had done.
Wow.
It was all from anxiety.
Okay. And maybe it was because of playing and stuff. Yeah, exactly. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Wow. So I was actually.
So you're almost relieved. Once it was kind of over, you're like, I can't really play anymore.
Yeah.
It's like now you can kind of just enjoy, just live life, hang out with your kids.
Here, Mac,
I see what you're saying.
The guy with you, the bass player, the wonderful bass player.
Wait, where?
He was a student.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, Mac and Harley.
Harley.
Oh yeah, I just saw Harley.
Guys like that, and Doug. I'm thrilled. So I'm not feeling like jealous or, oh, woe is me, or.
I see what you mean.
I'm blessed that I had 50-some years.
Right.
Played with a bunch. Chick Corea, my heroes, and Joe Farrell, all these people that I just, Benny Golson, Sarah. So I've really enjoyed not playing.
Cool. Wow, that's kind of cool to hear, actually. Like, I guess I feel like, my first reaction, like if I was older and couldn't play anymore, I would be like, oh man, I feel like I would be bummed. But not the way you kind of put it, it's kind of like almost like you're relieved. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Plus, I was getting to a point where I couldn't play at the level I wanted.
That you wanted or you heard for all these years.
Right.
Especially now, you only get better and better in your mind. Like,
I mean, I had become better as a musician, and I made better note choices, and all that grew, but it just the deterioration of not being able to practice, and still trying to play was just.
Yeah. So talking about some of your students, because you've been teaching here in SD for a while now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, since I went there, I heard,
it's probably been 15 or 20 years.
And I always loved how you and Bob have the same office.
Yeah, Bob Bob's
the Bobs. That's what I always say. I'm going to see the Bobs. I love it. But just like maybe in terms of like teaching or like students studying, like, I mean, we don't have to get into like a bunch of music theory talk and stuff, but like, I don't know, just like anything you maybe can talk about, like playing bass particularly, and just how you teach stuff, or how, like, you have your book, obviously, The Art of Walking Bass.
Yes.
And then, like, I remember you were telling me about, who was the classical guy that you learned from? I remember you were telling me in lessons, like, it changed the way that you were playing. I think it was with a bow a lot.
Well,
I'm trying to remember who it was. There was like a way.
The thing about Fred Hewitt, how he was, the fingering thing where we had to play root 5, 9, root 5.
That might be it, yeah.
Yeah, that was Frederick Hewitt.
Okay.
And he had played many years in the Minneapolis Symphony.
Retired, this is it. Yeah.
Retired out here. Played principal for a while. Then he didn't want the responsibility.
Okay.
He was ready. And he moved back. And I was the last bass player, the 8th bass player in the symphony.
Okay.
So Fred moved next to me on the stand. So we shared a stand. And I'm the outside guy, inside guy, outside from the audience. Inside from the audience. So I do the page turning,
Right.
And the other guy, on each stand, it's that way.
Okay, I see.
And so we had to play this ostinato figure. Well, I don't remember the piece, but it was an E flat on the A string, B flat on the D string, and high F on the G string.
Oh, so like those fits.
Root
kind of
5,
thing. Yeah.
9, da, do,
Right,
and
right,
back. Ba, boo, bee, boo, ba, boo.
And there was a bunch.
On and on for 45 bars. While the violins or oboe plays some beautiful melody.
So like to keep that in tune and like.
So we're all, I'm doing all this shifting because there's no way to play. And out of the corner of my eye,
you see him do
I don't see any motion happening. And I kind of glance over real quick. And what he's done is he's put his thumb, we have thumb position where after you go past the body.
Yeah, you move to
the thumb becomes like a finger.
Right.
But he had his thumb on E flat on the
down
A
there.
string. Yeah. And then he had B flat and so it was all in tune. And all he did was like move the bow and play that. So at my next lesson, I said, Mr. Hewitt, when we played that, whatever it was, I says, we're all shifting like, man, I look over and he says, Bob, I'm just naturally lazy. I'm looking for the easiest way to play.
I love it.
And he was one of those guys, meticulous, like really had learned the art of how to play an instrument. Like you see those good, and their hands look like they're hardly even.
It's all, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. He played bass like that. It didn't look like a spider just walking across.
Yeah, it looks so easy because of the way he's doing it.
Yeah, so that was a huge lesson for me with him there.
Nice.
Fred
That's great.
And he has 2 sons that are, well, Ted, the older one, passed away about a year ago. Both jazz bass players. Well, they played classical and jazz. Mm-hmm. And Jim Hewitt, the younger boy of the 2, had a huge career playing in LA. He's on recordings with, he was the bass player with Natalie Cole.
Oh.
And he had played on a very famous record with Joe Pass, John Pisano, and Colin Bailey and Jim on bass. Well, they put together a Japanese tour while he was doing the Natalie Cole.
Okay.
Did I say Natalie Cole? I might have said Linda Ronstadt.
No, you said Natalie Cole.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they got me to sub. So I did 3 weeks on that.
Cool.
While he went over there and played. So and then he played with Pete Chrislieb and Warren Marsh and all these great jazz players. Lovely guy. The whole family was just, so they were real successful. So their dad was my first bass teacher.
Nice.
Of course I met him through my dad.
Okay.
From the symphony, And when I was going to buy that bass, I bought that bass that I have now after I'd played 1 year.
Oh, wow.
My dad called up Fred and said, my son wants to, I was 19, and he said he wants to buy this bass. Would you take time? And so we got the bass, and when he put light bulbs inside and had like dentist mirrors, you know.
He was checking it.
Yeah, he didn't play it.
Oh, so he's an expert. He's all looking inside.
Yeah,
like...
he spent like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And then told my dad, yeah, this is a good bass for that.
And you've had it ever since?
It ended up being my career bass.
What? That's so cool.
I played it my whole career.
That's really cool.
And it was a lot better than I was, you know.
So that's cool. But you got like a really nice instrument. Did you realize it?
Well, I knew it was better than what I had, the one before.
Okay.
But I didn't realize how great until as I improved.
That's cool.
Then I started seeing, oh man, this is and it's a 7/8. It's on the big size.
Okay.
You know, and the string length was longer than most guys have to do. But I have big hands and I'm tall, and so it was the bass I played my whole.
Wow, that's really cool. So it's got some miles on it. Like that's cool. Like how many to think like what gigs that bass has been on. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It was a wonderful. Yeah.
Wow.
So it turned out being a lifetime instrument that that good of quality.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, I have some guitars that I might get rid of, so it's kind of cool to think about like having one that you just have had for the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Huh. Nice. I'm trying to think of some more like ideas or questions that I had thought of.
Uh-huh.
Or if you have any other stories or anything, I mean, and we don't have to keep going. I mean, if we can feel free to stop whenever you want.
No, I'm enjoying it. You know, and then living in LA was a great experience for me, and I worked. Got with Bud Shank. I played in his bands. He had quartets. Wofford did it some. Joe LaBarbera was usually the drummer, and then Bill Mays did it also on piano. And then he put together a sextet. We toured Europe and made some records, and that was all the old Stan Kenton guys. Bob Cooper. No. It wasn't Bob Cooper. It was Conti Condoli. It was Bud on alto, Conti Condoli, and Bill Perkins played tenor, which was great fun. We had wonderful arrangements, and
nice.
And so I worked with him, and I played him. I met Benny Golson there and played in his quartet, and some of the writers, the studio work I got, like I was mentioning how hard studio work is to break in for Gordy, and I wasn't at all interested in. I was really kind of very selfish and young and wanted to play creative music. Okay. And I didn't want to play electric bass. Ah, okay. Which was another dumb thing, like sitting next to a child. Here I ended up with 4 kids and I'm not playing electric bass. Wasn't a good earning choice. But I managed to make a living doing it, playing. But some of the guys, like many of the writers, like Johnny Mandel, who's one of my heroes. In fact, we named our middle daughter, Emily, after his song. Oh,
after Emily, the song, yeah.
And so all those guys would come after dates and hang out at Dante's, and they were ex-jazz players and big band guys, not Patrick Williams. I never worked for John Williams, didn't meet him. Patrick Williams, Johnny Mann. So they would come in, and so the way the studio scene in LA worked was that, so say Johnny Mandel's going to write a film score. Mm-hmm. So then they have what's called contractors. So he calls the contractor, and he says, I need 8 violins, 4 violas, 2 cellos. Mm-hmm. So he gives the instrumentation. Well, then the contractor puts out the calls. Oh. And they have their people that are over. That they're go-to. Yeah, they have their number 1 guys. And
their list.
Yeah, they have a list. And so it's very, very hard for anybody that's trying to get in.
Oh, I see.
To get in.
I see what you're saying.
So I just lucked out and I wasn't even trying, or I would have continued playing electric bass if I had. because some guys really wanted to work in this, because you could make a ton of money.
I see.
In those years. So they would hear me play on the jazz gigs, and then for the film day, ask for me, tell the contractor. So if the composer asked for you, the contractor had to call you.
Oh, I see.
So that's how I started getting. So I did 4 weddings and a funeral, and I don't know, I'm on Caddyshack, and
really,
yeah, different films, and I don't even
hilarious.
know. Yeah, I don't even know what they are. And then I think from working with Linda Ronstadt, pop people started calling me. I made a record with, or actually just one tune with Bonnie Raitt.
Wow.
It's called The Glow, and her bass player wrote the tune and said, she wanted string bass. He said, get me for.
Wow, that's cool.
And that's where I met Don Grolnick. He flew out from New York and played piano, and Johnny Guerin played drums. It was a trio.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful tune. And I love her singing. She sounds great on it. That was the title of the album. I'm just on the one track. And then the 10,000 Maniacs, they called me for stuff. I recorded with them. Do you know the girl's name, the singer?
No.
Yeah, she did some solo, and Madonna. I did records with Madonna.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was all just sort of,
It was like almost like happenstance. You just kind of ended up in it.
Yeah.
And
And I wasn't trying, but I would take it because and here's a great guitar story.
Okay.
You know Tommy Tedesco.
Uh-huh.
Tommy was a complete character.
Okay.
And funny guy. And when I got hired to teach at GIT,
okay.
Guitar,
guitar. What is that?
It started at Guitar Institute of Technology.
Oh, okay.
It was Howard Roberts and a guy named Pat Hicks, and it originally started. Howard did clinics and at music stores, and they were very successful. And Pat was kind of booked, and so then they start this school.
Oh,
and so,
okay.
So Howard, I had worked with Howard, and he says, "Well, call MAGNUSSON." Chuck Rainey was the bass guy there. Call MAGNUSSON and get him over. So. What was I going to tell you about it with the school?
With the Guitar Institute.
Oh.
Something with.
Yeah, Howard. I'm forgetting. There was a specific story. Oh, Tommy Tedesco.
That's it.
Tommy was he was some of the money behind the school because he was he did every studio day.
Okay.
And if Tommy couldn't read something, he made it up, and the composers loved it. Like some Spanish guitar thing, Plus, he was a really good reader.
Okay.
But he was just such a gregarious, funny guy. So I'm on a date, and Tommy's on the date with me, and we're in the rhythm section. I'm playing, And at the end of the date, they hand out the 1099 forms or whatever. And you fill in your stuff. And union scale for a 3-hour session was something like $260 for a 3-hour session.
Okay.
Good money. And Tommy's sitting next to me as I'm filling out the thing, and Tommy looks over. He says, "Mag, write double scale on the bottom." And I look at him like, I've never done, I've only done a little peripheral studio work, and I never did tons of,
like knowing the ins and outs.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean when you say you're doubling?
Yeah. So that means if the scale is 260, now they're going to pay you twice that amount per hour.
Okay.
So what is that? 520, I guess. So now you're going to make 520 instead of 260. So I said, "Tommy, I haven't talked to anybody, or he said, "You're in the rhythm section. You write that on there." So I wrote it. Nobody said a word. I go pick up so from then on, Tommy says, "Anytime you're in the rhythm section." So I always wrote that from then on. And I always got paid. Now, sometimes I got film dates where electric bass was playing the rhythm section and I was playing arco parts.
Oh, so then it wouldn't be considered.
So then right. So then I never did it.
I see.
But that was Tommy Tedesco.
So he showed you a crucial little, Wow. That's cool.
Said, write that on there, Mag.
Hey, well, if that, hey, he was right.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah. No, he knew the business, and you'll be fine. You're here. That's why you're here in the rhythm section.
Right.
So it was great. I would buy extra shoes and stuff for the kids.
Yeah.
So when it came up, I took them,
Nice.
I mean, 90% of it is kind of schlocky music, but then I would get to work with somebody like Johnny Mandel or Patrick Williams, and the musicians would literally applaud at the end of the sessions.
Wow, that's cool.
Because when they got to play, they were all great. The orchestra players were all great, great classical players, and so they knew when they played good music, they would. They would let the writer know. Yeah, this was real music.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
This is like the real deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sure. I get you.
But many of them, you just walked out.
Wow.
Got your check at the union.
That's cool.
I don't know what else.
Yeah, if there's anything else you want to add, I mean, I'm just kind of winging it. I didn't really want to come in here and just ask you a list of questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
I kind of just wanted to hang out. So
my memory goes,
What about, here we go. Maybe you could talk a little bit just for since we're in San Diego. Having gone to state and knowing Bill, and knowing Rick, and Thompson, all those guys there. What was it like? How did you maybe meet those guys at first? How did you end up seeing Bill, or had you played with him before? What's the story behind that?
I didn't know any of them except Bill Yeager.
Okay.
Bill and I were in L.A. I stayed 8 years. I went there in 75, and we came back here in 83.
Okay.
So he and I had played in Kicks bands, and so we knew each other from the scene up there. So when Gunnar retired as the teacher, and Gunnar has papers, I think. He's a thoroughbred.
Okay.
I'm a mongrel.
You're a mongrel.
So Bill calls me on the phone and says, Gunnar's leaving, and I was already teaching at Mesa.
Oh, okay.
And Jim Romeo got me in over there.
Jim Romeo, okay.
Yeah. Again, another jazz guy, and so they would hire me because I never went to any school. So they wanted to look at, the first time I got hired at Mesa, they fingerprinted me, and then they wanted a bio, and then they wanted recordings I had played on. So I made a list of some I didn't know all. And then they wanted proof that I played on. So I had to go and Xerox the backs of the albums. I guess people falsified it.
Yeah, I guess it's good that they're thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So finally, they give me credit for a master's degree on the pay scale.
I see what you're saying.
At Mesa, just from my experience of playing.
So an honorary, whatever you call it. Yeah.
And so Bill, when he called me, and I'm not, I don't want to get involved with everybody, politics at places,
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Big schools. So when Bill called me, and any big thing, any big company or office or school,
there's always,
it's got to exist. It's part of
just to make it work. There's got to be,
right. There is that. And so when Bill called me, I said, Bill, I could be honest with him because we're old friends. I said, I'm interested. I'd love to teach. I enjoy teaching. I said, but I don't want to go to any meetings or do any of that stuff. He says, Bob, I'll give you a key to your room. You make out the grades at the end of the semester. And so, they've been true to their
That's great
thing.
I mean, I
don't know any of that. There's a whole language to that, or, one time I got an email. The lady that played clarinet, she was the head, and it came to everybody that taught at the school, and it asked for my curriculum vitae, like in Latin.
Oh, it was all proper wordage.
Yeah. And I don't know what a curriculum vitae or vitae is.
I have no idea what that is.
So I write Bill. I sent an email to Bill. I said, Bill, what the heck is what's this? He says, oh, that's just your bio.
Oh.
Your biography.
Okay.
So that was the kind of stuff. And
I get you.
You know, had I gone to school, I would know
Okay.
maybe some of that stuff.
Oh man, I went to school. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I didn't know. So, but that was the kind of stuff I didn't want to get.
I get you.
You know,
That's funny.
But
that's honestly, that's what I love. I like. Well, I need to talk. I'm gonna sit down with Bill too and talk to him.
Yeah,
because he's so good with stories too.
Yes. And Bill's a player too. You know, he played.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, and that's what I felt good about teaching, because I'm coming from a whole nother kind of angle that a lot of educational people are not. They've gone to school, they've gotten degrees,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, like I'm saying, those things don't exist. The Buddy Rich training, things like that for people, anymore.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the only way I can kind of relate to that, because for me, like the way I found jazz was from going to school.
Mm-hmm.
Was like, well, you either have to be a jazz major or a classical major, and I was like, well, I can't do either. I don't know, like what? Okay.
Had you played rock and that?
Yeah, I mean,
R&B and rock.
Yeah, I was listening to Hendrix, and you know what I mean? Like, I play guitar. Like, so
that's where we all.
It was kind of funny for me, you know, looking back. It's like if it wasn't for school, I maybe wouldn't have found jazz when I did.
Yeah.
And then, you know, learning through that frame of mind was, you know, one thing. And then afterward, kind of like just trying to play gigs and learn kind of like maybe how I would imagine you guys were learning.
Yes.
And like or just being on like on the gig and making mistakes and, oh, do this chord sub, or you got to be listening, or what do you guys do? How do you do whatever it is?
Yeah.
And then, you know, after getting a church gig, we're playing like gospel music.
Yeah.
And like really not being able to read at all, because they're not, I mean, there's no sheet, like they're not going to just like write, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it forced me to like really have to hear everything and study, you know? And so it's like, and then it like transformed the way I heard things. And then I saw like, well, this is definitely how these guys did it. There's no, like, you could just tell that's where it comes from. And so it's like, it's funny because like I kind of did it backwards, so it's cool to see like, but that's why I liked that you and Bill were there, and you know everyone that's like teaching there, and it's like or just in school in general.
Yeah.
To see like that frame of mind I feel like is so nice, because in school it could get so scholastic and like because I get it, you have to measure people somehow.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah,
in
they have
curriculum.
to find some kind of way to. Yeah.
But
I understand it all.
But it's like, it's nice to see, you know, and that's what I try and do with some of my students, is just like, hey, don't forget, like, this is how you kind of have to, you know, this is how they did it, and this, you can't forget that tradition sort of thing, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And that takes me to write to like Gilbert and you and a couple of other guys that have these sessions going. See, that was going when I was young.
Right.
And then it all died. There were there were sessions. I mean, we would make our own at people's homes.
But it wasn't like what it was. Oh, interesting. I never really thought about that.
Yeah, no, it kind of all disappeared. And then Gilbert and all you guys have
Oh, wow. Okay.
And San Diego has a pretty
yeah. I feel like it's kind of a hidden gem.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing. You're actually getting to go out and play.
Yeah, you're doing. Yeah.
And people are hearing you play, and that's how you get work.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I feel like the jazz tradition, or the jam session, is so much a part of the jazz tradition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially when you study, you know, you hear about, you know, whether it's Mittens or whatever, you know, you hear about you know, like I remember hearing a record, it's a Charlie Parker record, and it's like filmed in an apartment, or recorded in some apartment or something. I don't remember what it is, but anyways, it's so much a part of like just the culture of jazz. So it's like weird to think. I didn't know that it kind of went from like a bunch, you know, and then maybe it kind of died off, like you're saying, and then now. Because I feel like now you could go to any city, and if you know where to look, you could find the session.
They're going now all over.
Yeah, right? I'm sure. Yeah, that's what's kind of cool, is like you could go.
That's great.
I mean, it's kind of interesting, because, you know, that, at least for me, I hear like, oh well, jazz is dead. You know, it's no one. It's like
they've been saying that.
They've been saying that for years. I know.
I've been playing.
But it's so funny because I mean, especially with the internet, it's like I feel like nowadays it's even more than it's ever been.
Yeah. With the young people that love it and
just I mean,
and it's a world music.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
it was very much an American music when I started playing.
Right, but now it's yeah, it's literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of unique because I can't think of many things that you can kind of go to, you know, any major city somewhat, or even if it's small. I mean, I don't know. I've wherever I've gone, I've been able to find like the little scene, which is so interesting to me.
That's great. Joe Murillo was always like did that.
Yeah,
for young guys.
That's how I met Joe. Was from going to Rebecca's, that little coffee shop, and he'd be playing, and then I didn't know who he was at first. And I just would be, you know, and then. You know, I remember playing like Corcovado with him or something. Like, and then I found out who he was, and I was like, "Oh, whoa, wow, that's crazy!"
Yeah,
like I had no idea.
Oh, he was a wonderful guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
I loved Joe. And when I first, he and Tony got me to move to to Las Vegas, and Joe had this place way out in the middle of the desert, so we would play. Sometimes just me and him. He might play tenor, or he might play piano. He played pretty good piano.
Played.
And then we sometimes would have a conga drum player.
Nice.
So it was all these different configurations. Mm-hmm. Steve Swallow came to town, and we got him.
That's cool.
To play a jam session with us, and he was always one of my big heroes. Still is to this day.
That's cool. You made me think of. Can you maybe touch on like what it was like having listened to Kind of Blue, and then like getting to play with Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, because
that must have been that. It's like the way you describe it. That would have been like, I don't know. I mean, me meeting whoever it is that I would have listened to. Back, you know what I mean? Like,
it was so ironic that I got to be in that situation after this was the record.
Did you ever tell him?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I told Jimmy. Jimmy, he just passed away not too long ago, but. He was a real sort of dignified, a sweetheart, but a kind of a quiet man.
Okay.
And so, but if you asked him things, then he would offer. And as I got to know him, I would ask more. And I don't know if I told you the story when we were together with the bass stuff, but Sarah Vaughan played the slowest ballads. Did I tell you this?
No.
The slowest ballads I've ever played in my life.
Okay.
And you'll hear it on some of her records.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard her do, like, now that you say that, like, that doesn't surprise me, really.
Yeah.
But I like to, she would notorious for doing, like, you remember that.
Yes. And I had never played, in an orchestra, I'd played that slow, but you have a conductor. You know,
right.
Somebody's giving. So here it was, and Jimmy is stirring the soup, as he calls it, you know, and Schroeder's playing the piano, or Bill May, whoever it was, Jan Hammer when I joined, and Jimmy Rolls also played on that gig too.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to put little flowers, and I try this and I try that, and nothing feels good to me. It's just like, you know, everything I'm trying is not working.
Okay, yeah.
And so.
And this is on like the ballad.
Yeah, she did Round Midnight. Literally, it was like 1, 2, 3.
Nice, that's a proper ballad, yeah.
4. That's one bar.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm like, you know.
What do you do with all that space?
Yeah. And so finally, I asked Jimmy, and I were having a beer after the gig, and I said, Jimmy, I'm really struggling on Round Midnight, and there was a couple others she did. I said, I've never played that slow. You know, he says, Mag, you've got a really good long sustain.
Yeah, you do.
On the bass. He says, try just playing a half note. You know, he said, or maybe play a dotted half and put a beat 4.
Yeah, quarter note.
Or even let the bar note die out for the whole 4 beats.
Like lean into it.
Yeah.
Just let it.
Maybe it lasts 3 beats and just let this.
Okay.
So I start trying that, and it was like somebody gave me the key to the.
Yeah. I get you.
and it was like honey out of a jar. Because the other guys.
That's a good description.
Yeah, I was just like in this thick
like
syrup.
Molasses,
And it was such a great lesson that less is more, is what Jimmy taught me right there.
Nice.
The other thing about Jimmy Cobb that for me was, because I had listened to him on so many great, and Wynton Kelly and he and Paul were one of my favorite rhythm sections.
Right, of course, yeah.
With anybody, as a trio, with Miles, with Cannonball, whoever it was, Coltrane. And so I knew if I can put my beat where his beat is, I'll be swinging.
Right.
So I'm going to school with this guy sitting. But in the beginning, when I started playing with him, it was this sort of sensation of, oh, it's on top of the beat, and I would kind of lean a little more, and then that wouldn't feel quite right, and then I'd say, hold it, no, it's more, and I would kind of and that wouldn't feel quite right, and I don't think I ever talked to him physically about it, but the illustration that came into my mind of Jimmy's beat was that, like, he attacks the note at the top of the beat. It's got this real forward momentum to it that I loved. But then each beat was like dropping an anchor down, into the ocean.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
It had such a strength of depth to the. I mean, it was like real powerful feeling time. Yeah. And so I loved it, and I got real comfortable playing with him. A funny experience was years later, I went up to, I was invited to the Jazz Festival in Portland, Oregon. And the band they put together was Wofford, me, Ernie Watts, and Jimmy Cobb.
What?
And Wofford had never played with Jimmy Cobb, and Wofford was ready. And I was, and I had played a lot with Ernie in L.A. Bill Mays had a quartet we played together in, and different stuff. And I hadn't played with Jimmy in years. And so I get up on, and we start to play, and all of a sudden it's this, this, like the beat is just like, and I go, oh man, I forgot what that.
Yeah.
And I really had to, it like woke me up right away. Like,
it's funny how much like personality and uniqueness can be in just something like, just like the sense of quarter notes or how you feel.
Yes.
Like it's like sometimes I'll be trying to describe it to students or just trying to figure it out myself. Like how to, it's funny how everyone has their own. If this is the beat, it's like, well, it's not just here.
Yes.
It's like that took me a while to realize.
Yeah.
And like even now, it's like sometimes my tendency lately, I feel like, is I'm a little more on the front. Like maybe it's because of like Afro-Cuban stuff that I
like that too.
So it's like
that's my natural
right. Okay.
Where I feel the beat the
most.
But
the thing is like especially with like swing and just like when you hear, I don't know, when you just hear something like a drummer that knows what it's like, sometimes it's in a different spot than maybe, I don't know, just that whole discrepancy is like interesting.
Where you want to play.
Yeah. And it's like you would think it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's like you can hear someone like Jimmy Cobb play and then hear someone like Elvin play or hear whatever. It's like the different touch is like,
yes.
It's just interesting how
it really is.
Yeah.
And it's probably the hardest thing to talk about with the student.
Yeah, because it's
all things.
Yeah.
And the final conclusion that I came to was if you listen to a record and you hear, Elvin and McCoy and Jimmy Garrison playing, and you say, oh man, that is burning. Or Jimmy and Wynton and Paul, or Philly Joe and Red Gar, and you hear that, you can feel that sort of dancing magic. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because to really play good time, you really have to have everything together.
Right.
you have to play the instrument well.
Right.
You have to know how you're going to improvise, how to play through chords.
Do it all together.
Yeah. It combines all those things to where you can relax and actually do it. And I heard, and I can't think of who the bass player was, but it was some bass player, and I don't know if I read it in a magazine or heard it on an interview, but he had a wonderful description of in front and behind the beat. He compared it to a picket fence.
Oh.
So you're seeing, here's the picket fence, and that's Jimmy's beat dropping down. Okay. But then at the top is the V.
Right.
Right? And it's moving down the thing. So if you're going to the right, and here's the front of the picket fence, but the beat is going down. And then some guys play at the top of the V, and some guys play back there at the back of the V. Yeah. And
that's exactly what I was. Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah.
I thought it was a great illustration of it, and I remember when we did a package tour. We played at the Palladium in London with Sinatra, Sarah, and Count Basie's band.
Wow!
And so our rhythm section would play with the Count Basie band.
Okay.
And Sarah had great Ernie Wilkins charts. She has big band charts, and the drummer Irv Kottner, he was the drummer with Sinatra. Well, he plays so far back, but it was good.
Yeah. It's not that it's behind.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, it's just the
it's
way.
It's that.
Yeah.
That's his.
And Jimmy and I were standing next to each other. And he says, if he plays any further back, it's going to stop. But it had a great feel.
Yeah.
And the other guys could. And so me as a bass player, I've had to play with different kind of drummers. And if it's even and they do it in the same place, I can move into that.
Right, you can shift and
spot. And I figure as a bass player, that's my job.
Right.
Because, I haven't played with a bad drummer in 100 years, but when you're young, of course you do. You have to play with everybody. So I could, if they did it that way, I could move it and make it fit with them. And I felt like it was, because he has much more dynamic range than I did in the context,
Yeah, that's interesting. Just that whole idea of just, because that's not even harmony. That's just, you know what I mean? That's not scales. That's just literally just,
and
where do you put,
And how do you teach it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one because, it's so abstract in a sense. You can't just point to it.
Yeah, and as a soloist, we literally move in both areas, You might want a phrase, the rhythm section's playing along, and you kind of pull back to create a little tension and then get to the downbeat. So there's this push-pull thing.
Yeah.
Dexter Gordon is a perfect example of that. He had forward rhythm sections and he would pull
back in.
Yeah, and it feels great.
Yeah, it's interesting how, that's one reason I think I love Afro-Cuban music so much, just the feel of it.
Yeah.
It's like you have it's like, you have the 16th notes, but and then you have the triplet feel. And it's like they don't line up.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like that play of, that's the feel.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, especially with jazz though and swing, it's so hard. It's interesting how there's so much characteristics and personality in just the way, someone may hear, that's their style, you know what I mean? That's just how they hear it, and that's whatever it is,
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, and listening when I listen to old school records or people that I admire, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like I hear those kinds of things or I try to focus on those things because you can, now hearing it more and more and studying it, it's like you can really tell, I remember when I was first starting, I can't tell that's Wayne Shorter. It's like, now I can't not tell that it's Wayne Shorter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's just interesting how much, because, and it's funny because the way that you really, at least for me, when I started to really feel like I kind of was grasping it, it was you could really, you were really hearing things, and it's it was hard to articulate them in words.
Yes.
And that's good though, because you're at least I thought for me is well, that means I'm creating a connection between the two that you can't just write down, or it's
Right.
it's major, so you play major, or
You
it's
feel
sharp
it.
five. Yeah.
Sense it.
It's like what I was saying earlier. Like, well, I know it's sharp 11.
Yeah.
But I can't hear it. I don't know. But now it's like when I hear if a singer ends on the sharp 11, oh, there. Okay,
Yep.
there it is.
You
yeah,
got
I like
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but to try and teach that, it's hard because it just takes time, and
Yeah.
you got to just swim in those waters and like.
At Mesa College, I do this thing because everybody's listening to James Brown records, and I say, I might write a chart. When I had the combo class, it was real diatonic playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wrote all the arrangements for the class.
Okay.
So I might have in the key of C, I'd have an A7 flat 9 in the song.
I see.
But then the soloing, that would go C, A minor, D minor.
Okay, yeah.
So that they could all play a C scale.
Right, yeah.
Over the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to get them to learn more. So, but I would say, so there's a dominant 7 sharp 9 chord in this. I said, now, you may not know the name, like you just said, the name of what that is, but you've heard that chord a million times.
Right, yeah.
And I say, how many of you have listened to James Brown?
And that's the chord.
So I go to the piano and I play boom, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding, gong, gong, gong,
Yeah.
ding, with the E,
Yeah.
the B flat, and the D sharp on top. And they all know the sound.
That's funny. I do the same thing with the Hendrix with Purple Haze.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's your sharp nut.
Yeah.
You've heard it a million times. Yeah.
So it's just, so we have to learn to intellectually figure out what the sound was that you already may know the sound.
And that's the thing. Like, that's a good spot to summarize like what we were talking about. Like, I feel like I try and not to lose sight of that, where like to like really know that, to do both sides of it, where it's like you can be very scholastic and whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, you also need to do this too, this other side of it.
Yes.
Because I feel like until I did both, and I'm still working, we're all working on it still, but once I did both and I was able to, do it, it made such a world of difference. Like, it was like, oh, well, I can actually
Well, I
hear it.
And even when I did that or talked to students with those things, I said, you're not going to be able to play that. You're going to understand it intellectually.
Right.
What it is. It's not that hard. We can see how it's built. But until we learn to hear it, we don't play it. That's like I tell them, I used to practice those things all day. Then I go play the gig that night. None of it was you didn't hear any of it.
You can't, I see what you mean. That's funny.
Like altered scales or, I'd go play the gig and it'd be all diatonic.
It's funny because like I keep forgetting I was just talking about this the other day. It's who's Anthony Wilson's dad? Gerald Wilson, yeah.
Wonderful big band.
There's an arrangement of a chart. Anyways, I always forget the name of it. But I like nowadays, like really hearing like really being able to hear certain things is so nice now, because I'm just getting more and more fluent in it, and I can hear it. But like finding certain things, like where, like the example, like I can't unhear Sarah Vaughan playing the 13 flat 9 in the Nearness that you recorded, and it's like now I just know what 13 flat 9 sounds like probably because of that recording so much. So but like things like that, where in one of the arrangements, the Gerald Wilson, it's like I call them like, you can see the chord, you can see the functionalities in their natural habitat is what I say. Yeah. Where it's like you can, and I think what it was like a low Korean natural 2 kind of vibe. And like I always remember thinking like, well, low Korean natural, like when do I really use, like where do I use this for real, like in its and this one song, I can't think of what it is. It's like Terry or something like that.
The Gerald Wilson.
Yeah, it's like a 2. Yeah. Anyways, inside of it, it's like these minor 2 5s, and I can't remember exactly how. I always forget the scheme, but it's like you hear this idea like in its natural little habitat, and like you can hear, or whatever the principle may be, is like if I can find a song where it does that, and it's like naturally in the scale or the heart, however it leads to it. It's like, then those are when my epiphanies happen the most, where it's like, oh, there it is, like for real, like you can see and hear it. And that's why it's, you know, whatever, natural two, or whatever the concept may be. Or that's why it's, you know, altered dominant and not, you know, symmetrical, because it's more in this, you know, melodic minor sound. This is why. And it's like yada yada. So it's like when I find certain principles, I want to start kind of like your lick book. Yeah. I was starting to think about like making, like, here's an example. Let's say, like you hear, like I have this thing where I call it the 4 of 4. Instead of the like flat 7 dominant.
Okay, yes.
Because to me it's like,
it's a 4 minor chord.
It's both. Yeah, it's like, but like,
and the jazz guys added that. The old sheet music, and I tell this to guys, said F minor 6, like if you're in the key of C. They didn't go to B flat. Okay. But an F minor 6 is a B flat 7.
Exactly.
You know.
You just put a B flat.
Yeah. So the jazz guys started saying, well, I'm going to play F minor, and so that's the two big composer tricks that I try to teach. Because when I tried to learn songs, and I didn't know any repertoire at all. I was, you know, having grown up. Some people grow up hearing standards. My wife heard Andy Williams singing, and she knows more standards.
That's funny. Wow.
So I say, you know, secondary dominants, ways to get colors and not leave the key, but get notes outside of the key. Yeah. And then what you're talking about, modal interchange, where they take a 4 chord from the parallel minor. So if you're in C major, he takes F minor from the C minor. Then we do the B flat. Now it's back to E minor or C, and never changes key.
Yeah. I mean, I've been wanting, like, I might have to start doing that, especially just for teaching's sake, of like, to find certain instances like where that musical idea like it happens in its natural little world. There it is in the natural environment. Like it's like watching a moose or something. Like there, look at that animal. It's natural environment. It's like when you hear those sounds. Yeah, and that's what sticks
all over the place in standard.
Yeah. Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like some of my students, I have them work on Days of Wine and Roses, and so. You know, the E flat 7 da da da, A after minutes D7 da da 2 da 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 da. Then he goes da da 4 minor, and move E flat and right back to F or A. Yeah, you know.
And that 4 minor is like it's beautiful. It just sounds so good.
Yeah,
it just sounds
taking you out of. And then with my bass player guys, I say, you know, so if you get a 4 minor. And you're in B, you're in F, so the 4 major has B flat, D F, you know, and A flat. So the common tones in the minor chord are the F, the C, and the E flat. I'm sorry, I was doing F minor. So I said I'm always going to play the note. The A flat that's not in the key of F, you know. And in the back of my book, I have right before the section I lay out. In fact, it's that tune. I write out each note of the chord, and I show the student, okay, on the E flat 7, I'm going to play D flat some kind of a D flat's going to be in there each time. You know?
Right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I get to the B flat minor, I'm playing the D flat someplace.
Yeah, of course.
They're like little gifts to me from the composer.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's great. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the more I learn about music, the more magical it becomes, which is, I don't know. I feel like most people say the opposite.
No.
No? Okay.
You're right.
Okay, yeah. I don't feel crazy then.
No, it just, yeah.
Because I find it interesting how, I mean, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I find it, I'm so fascinated recently with just why we like major or minor, or why why does this sound good when you just play C major, D minor, E minor, F?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like,
Harmonize the
no
chord.
matter what, that just sounds so good.
Yeah.
Like, there's no denying it.
Right.
It's like, because sometimes people, you know, my students will ask, well, why is it major? Why does it why can't it be minor? Or it's like, no, you don't understand. It's like, and I tell them, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that this sounds great.
Yes.
Especially if you compare it to a bunch of random noises.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you know, you're playing out of the key, you know, just random notes. And then if someone did that back in the day, when they first, you know, were making an instrument and then, you know, and then all of a sudden you just play bling, 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 like that would be like magic.
Yeah.
Just because like the way, I mean, there's no denying it. So it's just interesting how, you know, it's like, why do these things sound good to us? And I feel like there's no answer really. It's just like the way that they vibrate sounds good. I don't know.
Right. And the music came before any theory, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you're playing any chord with a major third and you put an 11, it's a minor 9. It's one of the ugliest interval we have.
Right.
But it's because it's between two color tones.
Mm-hmm.
But when we play a C7 flat 9, we have that same interval.
And it sounds,
but it's a function tone and a color tone.
Yeah.
So it works. But you're absolutely right in the magic of the music. And it made me think, Benny wrote this tune, Benny Golson. It's called Horizon Ahead.
Okay.
And he said, I think he was talking with Dizzy. He tells the story. Anyways, but it's that same thing you're saying. The music the horizon is always Benny tells.
Yeah.
We never get there.
Right.
We're always students.
It's like, I always, with my girlfriend, I always would be making surf analogies, but it's like, it's like surfing. It's like you're always after that one wave, you know, like you just like.
And I love and surfing is a rhythmic thing too.
Yeah, for sure.
The way you know.
Yeah,
do you ride short boards or long boards or? Both?
I have both. Honestly, the older I get, the more I just would rather just ride my longboard.
Yeah.
I guess it's funny. But like I said, I haven't been surfing as much.
Yeah.
I need to start. My girlfriend's been trying to get me to go, but I need to start going some more. I just haven't.
And what part of town do you live in?
I'm like right in North Park.
In North Park.
Yeah.
So it's not very far.
No, that's not too bad.
I just can't. The cold water has gotten. I used to surf in the winters, you know.
Me too.
And Peter got me a great deal on a full suit, you know, and the grandkids talked me into. I think it was last year, and I've probably used. It's a really nice full suit, but I hate putting it all on and
the whole process.
The whole process
yeah, for
of
sure.
it. And I hate to be
and you're
cold.
freezing.
Yeah,
and you
and
can't
I hate
feel
to
your
be
hands.
cold. So this story. So I'm in the bathroom. I'm gonna go. It's kind of a sunny day, but the water's cold, and they want. So I say, okay, we're gonna go down a new break the family. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of fun size. So I'm trying, and I'm really struggling to get into the suit.
Yeah.
And I find, and after I finally get in this left leg, I can't get it in. Finally, I get it through. I'm in the left arm.
No wonder it's so hard.
Yeah. And so finally I got it, and I put it on right, and I think that's the last time I did.
That's funny.
Cold water surfing.
You know, when I was like in high school or just like in college and stuff, like I was going surfing a lot.
Yeah.
And I would go in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
To Blacks, and I would do the trail, and but I don't know. I guess
something about being young though, because we surfed without wetsuits all along Sunset.
See, I can't do that. Well, in summer I could, but
no, I'm talking in the winter.
Wow.
Well, wetsuits were like straight jackets.
Yeah, that's true. They weren't what they are now.
Diver, and they had the tail hanging down. You know?
Even now, like when you go without a wetsuit, it's just like, oh yes.
Yeah, that's surfing to me.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's way better. Any day, of course. Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, that's funny. You know, Peter. I don't know if you've ever seen Peter surf, but he's a fabulous.
No, you know, I've never seen him surf.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures.
Did you see the article in Surfer's Journal?
No.
They did an article.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I got to see that.
Oh, I don't know which issue. I'll look around and see if
I'm sure I can find it on the internet.
Yeah. Put his name in Surfer's Journal.
I think I know what you're talking. It's like a magazine, but it's like a nice one, right?
Oh,
it's like I know what you're talking about.
Mercedes-Benz surfing.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Magazines, surfer.
So they did a little thing on him in there.
They did
That's cool.
About 3 or 4 pages and old pictures of him. I mean, he rode. I have seen him on little short boards, but he doesn't like short boards. He rides those in between kind of banana boards.
Okay.
But he was doing that stuff where they go, here's the wave, and he's on the top and drops.
Yeah.
But he's real smooth. I mean, his style. It's like how he plays guitar.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just this flowing.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's like a wolf.
Yeah, I've heard he's like a good surfer. Yeah.
And he reverses stance.
Oh wow! So that's
he'll
cool.
change stance and turn it back.
You know what's funny is I've been saying this for a while, but we gotta have like a jazz surf party day.
We did one years ago. Peter kind of organized one. All the jazz guys, and he didn't want to invade some good surf, so we went. Where what is that called? The left at the end of Cardiff. Cardiff Reef is here.
I don't know North County too well.
Okay. Then there's this long stretch of just sort of beach.
Okay.
Kind of not great waves. And then there's a left on right when the cliff comes back here that's good. Okay. So we kind of met there and went up, and all of us went on just kind of a lousy peak.
That's cool.
Then we went to Rubio's or something. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, we should. I've been wanting to do that, actually. I think that'd be fun. That's cool.
It is.
I love that Peter does that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's like,
with your peers and the music. We're all in the ocean. It was summertime. The water was warm.
Yeah, that's great.
We had junky waves, but we had fun,
Well, Bob, thanks for doing this, man.
Oh, what a pleasure. What a treat.
Yeah, man. I feel like hearing this stuff is like so priceless. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I feel good about it that I can share that kind of stuff with people, students.
And I'm gonna make my students watch this, and this is gonna. Okay. So it's cool to I don't know. It's just nice to document it.
All right.
So good. I'm glad. Thank you for doing this.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
A jazz symphonic funk with off-tone melodies.